Mama. Careful, or sorry. Are. No, with the baby, I have to learn to pronunciate again with these teeth. We're on the air. Careful. Hot mic. Hot mic. Don't say anything that can get you canceled 25 years from now, dude.
Yeah. But
Yep.
yeah, I
What?
like
What?
2 of the rarest appearances Stardew. Okay, first the owl thing. That's
Yep.
0.0001%.
That's pretty rare,
spawning.
dude. Yeah.
Then the monster is the same % chance of spawning. Like, they're pretty rare in Stardew.
The game must like you. Yeah. Don't look at it.
Except that no one will go to the Stardew answer for you.
Yeah.
Where's Sam, man?
Oh, where is Sam?
Hearts, but anyway.
Ooh.
Usually your first year, you don't really go with anybody.
Oh, I feel you.
Like, it's a month, your first month. And
Yeah.
you're expected to get, like, 4 love gifts of letters. But yeah,
I think I feel you.
maybe it's because I'm an alien. They're just crap.
It's true. It's true. You're Yes. That explains it perfectly. You're an alien, bro. What do you expect? What could you expect? You got to be a little understanding. You're an alien. I think it's more the blue hair.
Wonderful person, this is Anton, and today we're going to discuss some of the more unusual discoveries when it comes to
It's
planet
being an
Earth,
alien,
but
and it's
specifically
another thing being a
discoveries in
woke
regards
alien.
to Earth's gravity and a somewhat unusual gravitational anomaly that was just discovered by
Don't
accident
ask me.
in one of the recent studies. And normally these gravitational anomalies
It-
reveal secrets
It's
hidden
the new
deep
hate
beneath the
group.
surface that traditional surface geology could never uncover. And so today we're going to discuss some of these recent discoveries and compare them to some of the similar discoveries from the moon, and of course discuss this most fundamental phenomenon or this force on the planet, gravity. But first, let's briefly discuss how we know all of this and how this is usually studied. Because a lot of these incredible discoveries could not be possible without specific satellite missions. And I think this one right here is probably the most important and the most famous of them all. This is a pair of NASA satellites referred to as GRACE, Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment, that's been going on for at least 2 decades. And the point of this mission is pretty simple: mapping the entire planet and trying to identify various irregularities when it comes to various values for surface gravity. And so here the point is to try to discover the actual gravity value compared to what's expected or what's predicted based on a theoretically perfectly smooth Earth model. Because these gravitational anomalies do exist everywhere, and that's because none of the objects in the solar system, including our own planet, are perfectly spherical or uniform. And because gravity is directly proportional to mass, and also since different materials inside the planet will usually have different density, they're going to create slightly different gravitational pull, and they're going to produce slightly different values for gravity in every location on the planet. Now, the actual differences are very minuscule, but they're still there. And in order to measure all of this, scientists came up with this very brilliant mission. It essentially uses twin spacecraft orbiting extremely close to one another. And they orbit in such a way that they can actually see each other, projecting lasers as you can see in this picture. And so here, as the first satellite passes over a certain area, if it detects slightly stronger gravity, it's actually going to speed up momentarily, which will change the distance between satellites and will be visible because of these very precise laser observations. And really because of lasers. They're just such an incredible tool for super precise measurements. And so here, by precisely measuring changing distances, researchers can then start mapping the gravity of every single point these satellites pass over, which is of course where you usually get something like this. Now this is extremely exaggerated, but this essentially shows you slight field anomalies measured in milligauss. And for this to make sense, we have to understand what these milligauss are. Milligauss is essentially a measurement of gravitational change, with the Earth's standard gravity being approximately 980 gals, or 980,000 milligauss. In case you're wondering, gal here stands for Galileo. And 1 gal represents 1 centimeter per second squared. And so you can see that some of the values are approximately 50 milligal, which is almost nothing compared to 980,000, that represents the average on the planet. But nevertheless, these values are quite specific and quite significant. And as you can see in certain regions on the planet, there are unusual anomalies. specifically positive anomalies and negative anomalies. Now, positive anomalies usually occur where the measured gravity is just a little bit stronger, and this normally indicates the presence of dense subsurface material, like, for example, some kind of a metallic ore, or maybe dense oceanic crust. And so here this can actually be used in detecting any mining materials or in trying to map the invisible plate tectonics. So this is essentially useful for both mining industries and geologists. And the negative anomalies, which are obviously produced by slightly lower gravity, usually represent massive basins filled with light sedimentary rock or potentially unusually thick continental crust. So this is what you see right there in Africa, which makes it a vital tool for planetary exploration, or technically even lunar exploration, because something very similar was also done on the moon. And so, for example, for mining, when scientists detect some kind of a negative anomaly, this can help delineate sedimentary basins, which very often hold oil and gas reserves, because these rocks are usually much less dense compared to surrounding basement rock. Whereas the positive anomalies can reveal extremely rich iron deposits or any other dense metal. But for geologists or scientists trying to understand the planet, this is also how we can study plate tectonics and even the structure underneath, such as the crust and the mantle. Because here gravity maps are perfect for revealing folds, or structures inside the planet and discovering boundaries between Earth's crust and the denser mantle below. And so essentially this is one of the most important tools for geological sciences. But it's recently also become super important for studying climatic changes. Because here over the years, Greece became essential for what's known as time variable gravity data. Essentially changes in gravity fields that seem to happen over months or years, and which seem to be the result of redistribution of water on the surface. And this includes tracking groundwater, melting glaciers, and changes in the sea level as well. So this is a crucial tool for hydrology and climate forecasting, which is what it's basically been used for the past few years. And so when you hear about any studies involving changes in water distribution, that's usually where this data comes from. And the data here is super accurate, because here even millimeter changes are usually observable and visible to these satellites. But this is where we come to today's mystery, and this is somewhat bizarre observation, because for decades scientists believed that a lot of these time variable gravity signals would probably be coming from various surface processes, such as water, ice, or maybe atmospheric mass shifts, which is of course what you can actually see in here, based on these previous maps made over the years. But this is where things get bizarre, because a recent analysis that came out just a few days ago uncovered some really bizarre data that didn't make sense. A very strange event that originated far deeper than anyone predicted, and seems to have happened between 2006 and 2008. So essentially this happened over a decade ago, but somehow was missed until now.
No, the amount of
And
times
peak for this
the car
event
is
apparently
past the
happened in January
intersection and then turns
2007.
in front of
And this
you.
was
It's
an
just
anomalous, large-scale gravity signal that seemed to have
dude.
emerged over the eastern Atlantic Ocean.
Look,
This is essentially
God,
what you see in
stop,
these
dude.
pictures.
What do you
And
want me to
interestingly enough,
do?
this was not a small event.
And
It seems to
I
have
have
spanned
to crawl.
approximately 7,000 kilometers, or about 5,000 miles,
It's a
which
telephone
reflected a
pole.
significant mass redistribution. And here researchers spent a lot of time comparing the observations
Shit,
against
dude.
every known process, and it basically confused them for a very long time. For example, models shifting water or any kind of atmospheric changes just did not make any sense. The signal could not be explained by either water or atmosphere because it was just too powerful, and the amount of water required to produce this would be just unrealistic. And this forced the scientists to come up with a different hypothesis and a different explanation. Here they had to go down thousands of kilometers below the surface, down to what's known as D layer, a layer located near the boundary between the mantle and the outer liquid core. And here at a depth of 3,000 kilometers, they possibly discovered the source. And here the evidence points at something that's not
Nobody
expected at
stops.
all.
Nobody
An
tries to
extremely
avoid
rapid
you.
density change deep within the Earth's
That's the
solar
opposite.
interior, and very likely resulting from some kind of a mineral phase transition that happened in just 2 years. Or basically, there was some kind of a chunk of stuff that then transitioned from one phase to the other, kind of like water changing into ice, which basically changed its density, and that affected the gravity. And this study is so detailed that they even identified what most likely changed. The material in question is the mineral referred to as brigmanite, also sometimes referred to as a silicate perovskite. And it just so happens that under extreme pressures and under extreme temperatures, which we obviously do find inside the planet, this mineral can change its crystalline structure from perovskite to post-perovskite. which sort of resembles this. And this change usually involves a dramatic density increase, which can obviously affect gravitational measurements. And since in this case the temperature generally determines the depth where this occurs, here it was most likely triggered by some kind of a vertical motion, for example material rising from the base of the mantle, which possibly caused the transformation, with all this happening extremely fast. So once again, kind of imagine ice melting and becoming water, just because it went from somewhere much colder to somewhere much warmer. But interestingly, the movement of this material was extremely close to another geological mystery: African Large Low Shear Velocity Province, LLSVP. The bizarre structures inside the planet that we discussed in some of the previous videos in the description, whose origin is still not certain, but that obviously influenced the planet in certain ways. And so here this change caused a rapid mass redistribution, very likely affecting the African LLSVP and making it shift a little bit. And what's even more interesting is that apparently this event also coincided with something else, a somewhat unrelated anomaly in the Earth's magnetic field. So here this event spatially and temporarily coincided with the geomagnetic jerk, or basically a sudden rapid change in the variation of the magnetic field, which seems to have happened around the same time. And so this connection suggests that these deep mantle mass redistributions may directly influence the fluid core motion that generates the magnetic field as well. And though it's not entirely clear how all this connects yet, these incredible new discoveries will most likely lead to some really important explanations about what happens inside planet Earth. But right now, researchers believe that this phase change very likely caused the topography inside the planet to change just enough to shift things by about 12 centimeters every 2 years, which is what was observed in 2007 and why we saw so many anomalies during this year. And these discoveries are also important because they essentially offer us a unique window into the rapid dynamics inside our own planet, proving that the solid mantle, even at its base, can undergo some relatively fast structural shifts that only take a few months at most. And shifts that can even impact observations in gravitational fields and even affect the magnetic field as well. But here, just for funsies, let's maybe also take a look at our partner, the Moon, because for many decades the Moon has also been studied quite thoroughly and has also been mapped by very similar missions. And that's because, unlike Earth, the Moon is relatively solid and relatively stable, and so here various anomalies usually tell us a little bit more about the ancient events that shaped this object. And for decades, scientists noticed something really strange. A lot of spacecraft orbiting the Moon, especially over large impact craters, would routinely veer off course. And so having a permanent and stable orbit around the Moon has always been extremely difficult. And so it turns out that compared to planet Earth, the Moon's gravity field is incredibly bumpy, which becomes pretty obvious when you look at this map or when you compare the anomalies to our own planet. Here, a lot of the gravitational anomalies are usually 6 to even 10 times more powerful. And so today a lot of these mass concentrations are referred to as mascons, with the mysteries surrounding their formation once again largely resolved by similar twin missions, in this case referred to as GRAIL. The satellites that kind of look like this. GRAIL stands for Gravity Recovery and Interior Laboratory. And so this GRAIL data show that a lot of these mascons don't just create strong centers of gravity, they often appear with a very unusual bullseye pattern, a center of strong positive gravity surrounded by alternating rings of weaker and stronger gravities. And the reason why the Moon seems to have this is its violent past. So basically a lot of these large asteroid impacts that the Moon experienced over the years seems to have produced most of these bizarre anomalies. But turns out that these bullseye patterns only formed under specific conditions, when the asteroid struck much thinner crust, and specifically because this allows the denser material from the underlying mantle to then rise toward the surface, concentrating mass near the surface and creating these bizarre mascons. But the areas of the Moon with much thicker crust resisted these formations, with impacts not resulting in any of these mascons or these bullseyes. And so by comparing the gravity anomalies on Earth and the Moon, it really shows us how fundamentally different a lot of planets and moons seem to be. And so on the Moon, the gravity anomalies are primarily fossilized geological records. A lot of them are billions of years old and have not changed much for a long time. And they essentially reflect ancient cataclysmic impacts that left permanent mass concentrations trapped beneath the surface. Actually, most of them occurred during the late heavy bombardment over 3 billion years ago. But on Earth, gravity anomalies are both static and dynamic and allow us to to study so much more. For example, the static anomalies help us map stable geological structures like mineral deposits, or even understand plate tectonics, whereas the dynamic parts help us understand the changes in the water and atmospheric pressures, or even learn about these bizarre structures underneath the planet. And so these are definitely super important studies, and even help us challenge the traditional view about the deep mantle and the locations near the core. Even though we always thought these were
Say the
extremely slow
darndest thing.
processes,
Man,
this
didn't
study based on
Cosby host
observations from
that?
2007 tells us
He
otherwise.
did,
And so
bro.
this is not just
Bro, he
academic. This
did.
is about building a comprehensive
Maybe
model
not. I thought he did.
and about understanding somewhat surprising and still poorly understood workings of planet Earth. And as always, you can learn about all of this in a study by Charlotte Anton and the team you see on the screen. And so until future discoveries about our own planet, that's pretty much all I wanted to mention. Thank you for watching, subscribe, come back tomorrow to learn something else, support the channel on Patreon where you can find additional videos without any ads and can DM it directly, or by joining the channel membership where you answer early
Creepy in
access.
hindsight, eh?
Alternatively, you can also buy the Wonderful Person t-shirt in the description below. Stay wonderful. I'll see you tomorrow. And as
That
always,
you know
bye-bye.
of. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Dude, I was trying to adjust my graphics. Too much, bros. I don't think I saved before. Okay.
You're sick!
Go ahead. Be careful with that,
What's up,
okay?
baby? How you
Please.
doing? Have you ever been in a threesome? It's totally badass. Later, gorgeous. Catch you on the flip side.
I'm building a plastic bubble to sleep in.
Hello, lady.
Hey,
You hear her?
handsome.
You believe in the
What?
afterlife?
I don't think so.
Like, it's still really faint.
Get around, big dude.
At least you get you in the way.
Go ahead. So yeah, it's gonna be faint, but I could put it out there. In some middle of the kitchen. What do they call MTV? The sound boom? I need a boom so I can catch the whole room.
Hey everybody, this is Birch. Hope you're doing well. Look, it's a rare video where I'm not in the car, but actually what I'm doing is I've got a little workshop here. I'm painting it. And so I patched some holes in the wall, and then I'm going to go over it with some paint, but I'm just giving about 15 minutes for the patch to kind of settle a little bit. It's fast drying, so waiting for that patch to turn white to pink. You know, it's transitioning patch is what's going on. That's probably not a joke right now, but anyway, that's I'm waiting for it to turn pink, and then we paint the wall, and that's what's going on. So, how will this affect the quality of this video? Beats me. Anyway, you know, certainly a lot of stuff going on. Not going to talk about any of that. Did want to note, you know, as I think I've been mentioning in some of the videos, my daughter is helping with the channel. It's actually pretty awesome. She creates the thumbnails, she puts the videos together, she posts them, and she's been pretty good. I posted a couple myself late in the day, you know, in the evening. So if you ever see a video posted in the evening, not on the standard 11 o'clock Eastern time every single day, those videos are my daughter. If it comes at a different time, that's me. Why am I doing that? Maybe there's some breaking news, something I feel very strong about. It doesn't happen very often, but that's what's going on. Anyhow, she decided to post something with some language I don't approve of. I know kids say all kinds of things, but you know, I'm going to hold on to being a father of a 12-year-old, and she's going to not talk like that. So I did make her take it down and apologize. But a lot of people didn't see the original post, and so they think the apology is for me. So it's all very funny to me, I guess. Pretty much no one else, but certainly funny to me. But hey, some background if you were wondering what's going on there. Anyway, here's a mail we're going to read, and I actually have an answer. It's one of those cases where I have an actual answer for you. It's not an opinion, but a real answer. So here's a mail. It says, "Dear Voice of the Voiceless, CM Perch." It's clobbering time, is what it is. I not to go to wrestling too much, but I dislike CM Punk. That could be a video for another time. When I say I dislike him, it's not his wrestling style. It's him personally. I actually think I don't think he's a great human being, but anyway, that's probably, again, that's a video for another time. Supposedly he likes me, and he listens to the show from time to time, is what I've been told. But I don't know. I just the way I've heard he carries himself backstage, and kind of even some personal observations. Just anyway, it's fine. It's the little things. I've lost another subscriber. That's one. Anyway, back to the mail. It says, "Why do you think it is that Colossus is constantly getting the short end of the stick? The last time he had any real significance in the comics was when he sacrificed himself to cure the legacy virus. And it seems like he was just resurrected for the sole purpose of being a background character. He actually had an interesting storyline going into Krakoa that just ended, amounting to nothing. And since the fall of X, he's been virtually non-existent, being totally eclipsed in popularity by his sister. In addition, he's been left off the main team in all 3 X-Men cartoons, only appearing in cameo roles, and aside from Deadpool, he's had little to no presence in the movies. Has the franchise just moved past Pete Rasputin at this point?" Okay, I have an actual answer for this, and this may sound crazy, but the actual answer for this is the Marvel Comics editorial and the writers are uncomfortable with having a prominent Russian character in the comics. And you might go, "Oh, wait a minute, but what about his sister?" But his sister isn't written like a Russian character. I mean, like, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, but look at how they have her talk. Look at how she shows up. Look at how she is in the comics. You know, Colossus, and this was years and years and years and years and years of Claremont kind of reinforcing the Boshimoy, and I know I butchered that, and then just, comrade, and just like they thoroughly made him Russian. And the current mandate, and I'm using that very loosely because of course Jeff Thorne used the character recently in his book, but anyway, the current kind of more or less mandate is we're going to deprioritize, good guy Russian characters. We're going to modify where needed. Like even the Black Widow, you will notice in the last 2-3 years, they've deprioritized in ways, and they've also distanced her in other ways. Again, not as a hard and fast rule. It's not like a thou shalt not use. So it's not that far. But it's just a subtle nudge, and this is how a lot of Marvel Comics and DC Comics, a lot of how editorial will often work, is they will give notes, they will give suggestions like, maybe let's not do this, maybe let's just tweak with this. And a lot of writers, they just want to get the book out, so they will be like, all right, well, it's easy enough to change the character out. But this is what's been going on with Colossus, is there's been a steady kind of like, maybe there's a different character to be put in this role. So why in the world would Marvel deprioritize a Russian character? What does this have to do with anything? Well, this dates back to the, quote unquote, or, whatever you believe actually happened or sort of happened or mostly happened or any of the rest, Russian interference with the election. And it's been growing since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And that's what's going on. And so you will see Russian characters show up as villains. You did have Omega Red, and they did some stuff with him, but even that kind of petered out. You have the characters in the Ultimate line. You have a Russian contingent there, but they're evil if you're reading the Ultimate Wolverine. But that's kind of more or less where they are with Colossus. They're like, well, don't really want a big strong guy running around. In addition to that, so what I'm telling you is that is, firsthand, I've been told this by multiple people, that's what's going on. In addition to that, I do think that writers struggle a little bit about, like, what do you do with a big strong guy who turns metal? Like he punches stuff. What can we do? Jerry Duggan used him to basically, murder a bunch of, people from Orcus, which is kind of the one of the one of the kind of moments in Krakoa. Weird though, because they had this whole, he was being controlled storyline that they seemed to be building up, and he was on the Quiet Council, and it provided a mole there, and like there's a lot of pieces to it. And then, like you said, they just kind of wrapped it up and ignored it, and then he's just throwing Wolverine at people for no apparent reason. Well, not no apparent reason. They were fighting stuff, but you have this guy who's Colossus wasn't a pacifist, but he was a calm, nice soul painter, all this kind of stuff, and then suddenly he's like, let's go kill some people, yeah, bitch, and so it has been a rough time for Colossus. The jilted wedding with Kitty Pryde, and kind of all these different things. I think Colossus is a great character. I think there's a lot you can do with him. I don't think that writing a good, solid Colossus book makes you an agent of Putin. But, again, this is the same, oftentimes the same group of people who are like, yeah, I don't know, if you're writing the Red Skull, yeah, I don't know, you're writing a Nazi too well. I'm starting to wonder about your loyalties, given that you seem to write an accurate Nazi. Like, you've got this Nazi killing people, and, Nazis did kill people. How did you learn how to write Nazis? Maybe you're a Nazi. Anyway, that's been the climate. I do think that that's less of the climate today, but I mean, old habits do also die hard. And I think that you're going to see some time go by before some of that stuff starts to get unwound. Even though I do think things are much better in comics, and they've actually taken a lot of great steps, and we're getting some great stories out there, there still is some old habits die hard, tribal knowledge type stuff that is toxically dumb and bad. And a lot of stuff is boring business stuff like, hey, this particular editor is a track record of making terrible decisions with almost everything that he's done, Bob Harris. But, he has experience. We should put him in charge of stuff again. Let's do that. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, imagine if this was your job and you were like a factory worker. It's like, yeah, this guy's, he's screwed up the machine and it's, cut people's hands off. But he does know machines, so we should definitely make him the foreman. I mean, that's comics in a nutshell. It's just wild. Anyway, this patch has gone to fake, so it is ready to be painted. Short, simple answer: is it absurd? Is it insane? Yeah. Are there examples like, yeah, but they've used a Russian over here? Yes. Again, I'm not saying this is a hard and fast rule that is completely enforced, but there's just subtlety. There's a subtle nudge that happens, which unfortunately has come at the cost of my boy Colossus. And here's hoping for better days with Colossus ahead. Love that character. I do love the dynamic of him. He's a big, strong killing machine. It's fundamentally what he can be. And yet he has a peaceful soul, and yet he is an artist and a painter, and yet he's shy, and he would prefer not to. He's not bloodthirsty like the other members of the X-Men. He's more of an introvert, and so much you could do with that character. So, come on, Marvel, give it to old Pete. That doesn't sound right. Anyway, thanks for listening.
Sounded funny when it's you and it's your kid, and you're like, fuck, that's the last thing I want to do.
They're known as the Pope's personal bodyguard and the oldest active army in the world. If you travel to Rome, you'll recognize them at the entrances of the Vatican by the colors of their uniform, red, yellow, and blue. They're the Swiss Guards, the military corps made up of 135 soldiers who swear to protect the pontiff, even with their lives. 2 days before this oath by the new recruits, they presented their new uniforms. It's what you see here, a black design, made from Swiss wool, with golden buttons engraved with the keys, the symbol of the Holy See. The new uniform is a journey into the past. It recalls a uniform that was worn until the time of Pope Paul VI, and is considered semi-formal. That means it will be used on special and official occasions, for example outside the Vatican, such as visits to embassies. But only a privileged few will be allowed to wear it, mostly due to its cost, which averages out to around €2,000 per outfit. However,
she's
take note
trying
that the
to
Holy See
get,
hasn't
you know,
paid a
but
single
yeah, she
euro.
can't get there.
They were all paid for by a
So that's not
benefactor.
on you.
That's why
she
only a
can't
few have
get
been
there.
made, and only officers will wear them. So don't worry, the traditional
No, but
Medici-style
she can't get
uniform
there.
you see here isn't going away.
No, she
You'll
doesn't
still
have the
see it on the
car. It
soldiers
wasn't
in the
supposed to
square.
have at least
Just
something
look at these young
fitting with
men.
the
These
original
are two of the
plan.
27
But
new
now she's got
recruits
a
who are
job,
swearing
and it
loyalty
went
to
from,
Pope Leo
oh, that
XIV
job
in
to, oh, now she's,
2025.
no. And then
Dario
that's
is
the final
25 years
thing.
old.
No,
He
baby, you're
studied
not going to
business
St.
and,
Louis by
following his
yourself.
family's footsteps,
No.
decided to
No.
join this army.
Then
His
that's
father
beyond
was
just the
also a
car.
Swiss
Even if
guard.
it's a brand new, a
It
red,
didn't
I
really
will let
occur
you
to me to become a Swiss guard till I visited in 2016 because my father wanted to show me and my brother what he did in those years, and so we went
No,
to
if your
visit
flight leaves,
the
but
swearing-in
even then,
ceremony.
dude, girls in a big.
But after that, I
Amanda
was 16 in
Morgan.
2016,
Sorry,
so
I
it
still
wasn't that present
remember
in my
that,
mind.
dude.
And it
When I was
resurfaced
talking to Dad,
in 20.
That was on
when I
fucking
came to
44
watch the swearing-in
Springfield,
ceremony of a friend of
USA,
mine,
dude.
when I
and
was talking
then
to
I was
Dad,
like, maybe this could be the way to
so I
go.
called him.
The same path was chosen by Francesco at 23 years
And
old. In Switzerland,
he
he
was
worked
like,
as a mechanic.
like,
But something told
yeah,
him,
why
since
gotta
the
keep
age of
this?
10,
Like,
that he
people
needed to be a
disappear on there.
soldier.
That's the
Perhaps
first
because of
thing
Pope
you said,
Francis.
bro. And no just being like,
That's what I
When I
told
saw
your
the
son
election
when
of
he was
Pope
leaving
Francis
for
on
camp, too. I
television,
said, yeah,
it was a
Joseph,
very
well,
emotional
don't think it's
moment.
just
But what
girls
really caught
either.
my
Be
attention was that he
careful.
had chosen the name
But girls,
Francesco.
especially young
My name is
women, are
Francesco, and it was
especially at
very
risk. But
moving.
yeah, don't think
From then on, I
fucking.
also saw the Swiss
yeah,
Guards
Go
standing
down
in
that rabbit
formation in
hole.
St.
The
Peter's
boys
Square.
disappear all the
And that's
time.
when the
yeah,
dream
but
of
no,
joining this
I
army was
promise
born
you,
in
the
me.
first thing out of my
This
back
year, the
mouth
date of
is people
swearing in is
disappear out of
unusual.
nowhere.
It takes place on
Like,
October 4th, but that's
exactly,
not the
Dad,
norm. The
exactly.
ceremony is always held on May 6th, the day that commemorates the sack of Rome. However, the death of the Pope and the seat of Vicante, vacant seat, changed the typical plans. In fact, these recruits first began their service under Pope Francis, and now they'll swear to die for Pope Leo.
Be back. So, anyways, no, you made the right decision, and yeah, she doesn't have the capability. And I know that it makes me kind of sad a little bit, but I'm telling you, it's
This chat
above
says,
our
the
pay
one who
grade,
fund the
dude.
Mars return program now. Yeah, that's been
And
shelved.
not in a bad way,
I
but
wouldn't
kind
say
of.
it's
Like, that's what happened to
canceled.
us in gymnastics.
But it's
That's what made
definitely
me realize, too,
postponed. I
halfway.
mean,
Like, no, dude, you
look
like
at it this way.
hockey in Michigan.
Those
There's a
canisters
reason only white
of
kids are still
Martian
playing
samples, they're
hockey, dude,
medically
or
sealed. They're not going
no, there's
anywhere.
ways they can,
You
yeah,
know,
like,
those
I would
samples are
love her to go. I
millions,
would love
billions of years
if we had
old.
more resources, we could
They
fix
could
it
wait a
for
little
her.
while longer. They're not going to be going anywhere. They're going to
So,
be up on Mars,
no,
forever.
she could take a
So,
bus. Even if it could be a
even if it
bus
took
here, I'd be a little
decades
nervous from Springfield
to
to
go up there,
Tulsa. And like that
it might
only
even turn
stops in, I
out,
think,
and
in
this might actually
Miami.
be the case, that
yeah.
But even
if
people
NASA just
disappear in Miami,
winds
dude.
down
Go
and loses all
look. Like,
funding, if we don't actually get an
by
administration
yourself. I
that's
don't
really
traveling
wants
by
science and
yourself.
wants to put money into
No.
scientific research and exploration, if we don't get that in the U.S. again,
Yep.
well, then it's up to the Europeans, it's up to... What might happen is the Chinese
An
might go to
18-year-old
Mars and
girl
get those
traveling more
samples
than an
and bring them
hour
back.
outside
Because,
of town.
after 10
No.
years or
I
so,
just don't.
they're sort of going to
I
be up
could
for
be whatever.
grabs. The
I could
rovers
be
will be
being whatever.
decommissioned. They'll be powered down probably in 10, 15 years, and those Mars samples will be just sitting there on the surface, waiting to be picked up. And I wouldn't be surprised if China or India would go there and just pick them up and bring them back. It's definitely a possibility. But eventually, I think someone's going to look at those samples. That's just the value is too high. The scientific value is too high. I'm really against bringing the samples back to Earth. I think the best option isn't to bring Mars soil samples to Earth, especially if there's a possibility of life being on Mars. You could do everything that you need to do, everything you would want to do remotely. It would be a lot more sensible to build a custom scientific laboratory, fly it to Mars, have that laboratory land on Mars near the samples, check the samples right there, have it done robotically, no human beings involved, all the spectrometers, microscopes, ovens, everything that you would need, everything that you would do on Earth, do it on Mars with a robot. Don't bring it back. you would get all the data that you want, all the data you need. You would get all of the scientific investigation that you would do on Earth, just do it on Mars with a lab that you build just to do that mission. That's the way to do it. That's the sensible thing to do. Why not to do that? I'm all for that. And, you know, honestly, when you look at the numbers, the cost of actually transporting a small portable laboratory to Mars and landing it there and actually doing the work there, it's probably the same cost as sending a lander there with a big ass rocket and everything and loading samples onto the rocket and shooting it back. And when you look at the intricacies of actually doing the sample return, why not just send the whole lab there and just do it robotically? It's like, it's really a no-brainer. I don't know why we wouldn't do it that way. It seems like that is the way to do it. Put the lab on Mars, do the testing there, no risk. Particularly if, with the newest discoveries, that there's, you know, an even stronger possibility that at least at one time that there were biological chemical reactions happening on Mars. Doesn't mean that there's life there now. But even if the remotest chance that there's any kind of life on Mars, number one, we don't want to bring it back here, but also we don't want to be going to Mars as humans. You know, we don't want to send human beings to Mars if there's any kind of dormant life there, because, you know, for one thing, we'd be messing up Mars's life by mixing it with our own. And even if you forget about the danger of Martian life to humans, the contrary thing, I mean, if there is life on Mars, we could exterminate that life unintentionally just by going there and exploring it, spreading our bacteria. Our bacteria could wipe out Martian life. We don't want to do that. If there's already life there, if it's microbial, we don't want to destroy Martian life by replacing it with our own. That wouldn't be fair. There's a big argument against human beings going to Mars if there's any possibility that it's already occupied. I'm all in favor of the robotic laboratory mission to test once and for all whether there's life or whether there ever was life on Mars, but to do it with a remote robotic laboratory.
T-Bone,
don't bring it back here, because we don't want Martian life here, and we don't want Earth life to be spreading there.
Open your eyes, dog. Can't you
Fair's
see
fair,
what
right?
mess with here, huh?
Hey,
That's what I
bud.
think anyway.
T-Bone, look. Come. Now he's a real hero out there.
Say,
See?
swear it work.
He's still good.
What, are you about to stupid? Someone's onto us. We need to go back and rethink.
I think they was just trying their luck.
Mike, I've been trying to contact you. What? Oh, man, where are you? Okay, let's just keep talking. Hey, Holmes, Mike's in trouble. Let's bounce.
What trouble? Who is Mike?
Man, they taking the yay shipment and the van, and Mike's still in the back.
Well, what we gonna do? How the fuck we gonna know where he
He's got
is?
his phone. He's gonna talk to us till his battery runs out. Come on, we gotta bounce.
Alright, let's check.
Gotta make this quick. Mike doesn't got much time on his battery left.
Stigmata. The phenomenon of stigmata stands as one of the most perplexing occult miracles in Christian history. The term refers to the spontaneous appearance of physical wounds on a person's body, typically on the palms, feet, and side, locations corresponding to the crucifixion wounds of Jesus Christ. The most famous and earliest recorded case is that of St. Francis of Assisi in the 13th century, who reportedly received the stigmata after a profound mystical experience on Mount La Verna. However, in subsequent centuries, the phenomenon re-emerged in controversial figures such as Padre Pio of 20th century Italy. While thousands of witnesses swore they saw these bleeding wounds, the Catholic Church itself has often been divided, caught between acknowledging them as divine miracles and dismissing them as psychological delusions. What gives stigmata its occult overtone is the nature of their manifestation. They are not caused by conventional injury, but appear to be manifested by a spiritual force, whether divine or otherwise. Some modern psychologists propose an extreme psychosomatic explanation, faith so intense that the mind imprints these wounds onto the body. Skeptics, however, point to the possibility of self-inflicted wounds or even deliberate occult manipulation. In esoteric literature, stigmata are sometimes viewed as proof that the human body can be programmed by spiritual or
We can
astral
share the
energies,
vampire
akin to the
teeth for
practice
now,
of
but they're
sympathetic magic or remote wounding. The debate rages on: is stigmata a sign of sainthood, a product of powerful suggestion, or an occult manifestation? It is this profound ambiguity that makes stigmata a classic example of a miracle at the crossroads of faith, psychology, and the occult.
Get to the docks in Easter
The Dancing Plague. In the summer of 1518 in Strasbourg, then part of the Holy Roman Empire, a bizarre event unfolded, meticulously recorded in medical and church chronicles. Hundreds of people began to dance uncontrollably in the streets. They danced for days on end without rest until they collapsed from sheer exhaustion, strokes, or fatal heart attacks. The phenomenon began with a single woman, Frau Trofea, who danced alone in the city center for nearly a week. Within days, dozens joined her, seemingly possessed by the same compulsion, and at its peak, the number of frenzied dancers swelled to over 400. Baffled city authorities, in a tragically misguided attempt to cure the affliction, even hired musicians and built a stage, believing the dancers needed to exhaust the fever from their systems. This only worsened the chaos. The traditional interpretation blamed a supernatural curse or an occult miracle sent by Saint Vitus, the patron saint of dancers and epileptics, hence the name Saint Vitus's Dance. Others suspected mass demonic possession driven by the immense social anxiety, famine, and disease plaguing Europe at the time. Modern science offers two primary hypotheses: poisoning from ergot, a toxic fungus on rye grain that produces LSD-like hallucinogens, or a case of mass psychogenic illness, collective hysteria, triggered by extreme psychological stress. For the medieval mind, however, this was an undeniable supernatural sign, a dark miracle beyond rational explanation. The Dancing Plague remains one of history's most dramatic examples of how mysticism, mass psychology, and occult interpretations can converge, leaving a haunting question. Was this a divine curse, a demonic trick, or a profound collective psychological tragedy? The voices of Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc, a 15th century French peasant girl, became one of history's most legendary figures through her claim of hearing voices from heaven, which guided her to lead the French army against the English during the 100 Years' War. She testified that she received divine visions and instructions from St. Michael, St. Catherine, and St. Margaret, who commanded her to lift the siege of Orleans and ensure the coronation of Charles VII as the rightful king of France. To her supporters, her success was a clear miracle. An illiterate teenage girl with no military training had miraculously turned the tide of a major war. To her enemies, however, particularly the English and the pro-English ecclesiastical court that tried her, Joan's experiences were not divine but demonic. They were attributed to occult practices, witchcraft, or demonic possession. Her 1431 trial was saturated with accusations that she was in league with dark forces, and she was ultimately burned at the stake as a heretic and a witch. Theologically, this conflict showcases the stark ambiguity between a divine miracle and an occult phenomenon. Were the voices from God or a fiend? Modern psychology offers alternative theories, suggesting Joan may have had a neurological condition like temporal lobe epilepsy or schizophrenia, which can induce vivid auditory and visual hallucinations. Regardless of the explanation, the historical fact remains that this miracle of voices mobilized a nation and reshaped the geopolitical landscape of Europe. Centuries later, the Catholic Church nullified the verdict against her, and in 1920 canonized her as a saint. The case of Joan of Arc remains one of the most tense historical examples of how the same miracle can be interpreted as divine revelation by one side and occult deception by the other. The bleeding icons. The phenomenon of icons that weep or exude blood has been documented across various Christian traditions, most notably within the Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic churches. These sacred images, typically paintings or statues of the Virgin Mary, Christ, or saints, are reported to secrete fluids such as tears, fragrant oil, or even human blood. One of the most famous modern cases occurred in Naju, South Korea, starting in 1985, where a statue of the Virgin Mary allegedly wept tears of blood and exuded fragrant oil. Thousands of pilgrims flocked to witness it as a miracle, although the Vatican has withheld official recognition. Similar phenomena have been reported in Italy, Greece, Russia, and Latin America. For the faithful, these are potent supernatural signs, miracles that affirm faith, divine warnings of impending disasters, or portents of the end times. However, skeptics and scientists often attribute them to natural phenomena or outright fraud Organic-based paints can bleed oily substances under humid conditions, a process known as condensation, or liquids can be discreetly applied for manipulative purposes. There is also the analysis of collective psychological manifestation, where a deeply religious community projects its hopes and fears onto an object, interpreting minor anomalies as supernatural signs. Esoteric traditions, on the other hand, might view a bleeding icon as a charged occult medium, a spiritual portal through which a non-physical reality bleeds into our own. This debate keeps the phenomenon shrouded in mystery. Is it a genuine miracle from God, a pious fraud, a simple chemical reaction, or an occult manifestation? Whatever the cause, each report of a bleeding icon invariably triggers waves of pilgrimage, fervor, and controversy, making it one of the most contentious occult miracles of the modern age. The Oracle of Delphi. The Oracle of Delphi in ancient Greece was one of the most powerful spiritual institutions of the classical world, regarded by its followers as a miracle, and by later traditions as an occult practice. At the Temple of Apollo in Delphi, a priestess known as the Pythia would sit on a sacred tripod, inhale mysterious vapors emanating from a chasm in the earth, and enter a trance state. In this condition, she would channel divine prophecies believed to come directly from the god Apollo himself. Kings, generals, and even great philosophers like Socrates and Plato sought her counsel. Major decisions from waging war to founding colonies were based on her cryptic pronouncements. For the ancient Greeks, this was a living miracle, a direct line of communication to the divine. From the perspective of later Abrahamic traditions, however, the practice was recategorized as pagan sorcery or an occult art, as it involved communication with spirits other than God. Modern scientific research has attempted to demystify the phenomenon. Geological studies suggest that the temple was built over intersecting fault lines that could have released intoxicating gases like ethylene, which can induce a euphoric trance-like state. Psychologically, the oracle's trance can be seen as a culturally institutionalized form of ecstatic dissociation. Yet this occult miracle shaped historical decisions that altered the course of Western civilization. The question remains, was the Pythia truly channeling a god, or was the phenomenon a potent combination of geological hallucinogens, ritualistic suggestion, and shrewd political manipulation? This ambiguity makes the Oracle of Delphi one of the most iconic examples of an occult miracle, an intersection of religion, mysticism, and raw political power. The alchemical homunculus. Within the alchemical traditions of medieval and Renaissance Europe, there exists the legend of the homunculus, a miniature, fully formed human being created through occult processes. The concept was famously detailed by Paracelsus, 1493 to 1541, a pioneering Swiss physician and alchemist who wrote that a homunculus could be grown in a sealed glass vessel containing human sperm, horse manure, and other arcane substances incubated for 40 weeks. This tiny creature was believed to possess intelligence and even supernatural powers, serving as a secret familiar or assistant to its creator. If achieved, the creation of a homunculus would represent the ultimate occult miracle, man usurping God's role as creator. The Church predictably condemned the idea as forbidden sorcery, likening it to Lucifer's attempt to imitate the works of the divine. From a modern scientific standpoint, there is no evidence that a homunculus was ever actually created. The entire concept is relegated to the realm of myth. However, contemporary theories suggest the legend may have been an allegory for early crude experiments in embryology, or, in a Jungian psychological interpretation, a symbol of the inner self born from spiritual transformation. Though it never entered physical reality, the idea of the homunculus has persisted in occult lore, literature, and popular culture, symbolizing humanity's forbidden desire to replicate the divine miracle of creation through arcane means. Whether it was a literal experiment, a spiritual metaphor, or simply an alchemical myth, the homunculus remains one of history's most provocative occult miracles. Rasputin's healing power. Grigory Rasputin, 1869 to 1916, the enigmatic Russian mystic dubbed the Mad Monk, became one of the early 20th century's most controversial figures, largely due to his alleged occult healing ability, which seemed to save the life of Tsar Nicholas II's son, Alexei. The young heir suffered from hemophilia, a genetic disorder preventing blood from clotting properly, making even minor injuries potentially fatal. While the royal court's best doctors repeatedly failed to stop Alexei's bleeding episodes, Rasputin could reportedly calm the boy and halt the hemorrhaging, sometimes from miles away, merely through prayer, his intense gaze, or his sheer presence. A modern medical explanation suggests that Rasputin's key intervention was ordering the doctors to stop administering aspirin, a common painkiller at the time
failed
that,
that mission again.
unbeknownst to them, is also a blood thinner and thus worsened Alexei's condition. However, to the desperate Romanov family, his success was a divine miracle, God's intervention through an eccentric Orthodox holy man. To his political enemies, he was a dangerous occultist who held the royal family captive through hypnosis, suggestion, or demonic power. This dichotomy fueled legends of Rasputin's supernatural invincibility. His piercing eyes could bend people to his will, and his famous brutal assassination, where he was poisoned, shot, beaten, and finally drowned, spawned rumors of his mystical protection. Modern psychology might point to the placebo effect and Rasputin's powerful hypnotic charisma, but to many Russians of his time, he was the embodiment of an occult miracle, a man who stood on the razor's edge between spiritual sanctity and dark sorcery. The levitation of saints and mystics, the phenomenon of levitation, the human body rising into the air without any physical support, is one of the most extraordinary miracles attributed to both Christian saints and occult practitioners. The most well-documented case in Christendom is that of Saint Joseph of Cupertino, 1603 to 1663.
Hey, don't
an Italian
ignore your
Franciscan
sister, baby
friar
girl.
nicknamed the Flying
Nobody
Saint.
likes that.
Hundreds of witnesses, including church officials and nobility, testified to seeing him float in the air during moments of ecstatic prayer. The events became so frequent and disruptive that he was eventually forbidden from attending public choir and processions, but he was not alone. Saint Teresa of Avila, a 16th century Spanish mystic, also described being involuntarily lifted off the ground during prayer, an experience she considered an overwhelming act of God. Similar phenomena are reported in other traditions. Hindu yogis claiming mastery over gravity, Tibetan Buddhist lamas said to achieve levitation through deep meditation, and 19th century European spiritualist mediums who allegedly floated during seances. For the faithful, levitation is the ultimate miracle. The spirit's triumph over the flesh, defying the laws of physics. For skeptics, it is closer to stage magic, illusion, or mass hysteria. Modern science dismisses the physical reality of human levitation, suggesting that historical accounts were likely influenced by religious ecstasy, hypnosis, or clever tricks amplified by the subject's sacred reputation. What makes it an occult miracle is its inherent ambiguity, a sign of sainthood to the church, yet easily framed as a display of demonic power or witchcraft by theological opponents. Levitation remains a potent symbol at the intersection of faith, suggestion, and the occult, leaving the enduring question of whether the body can truly defy gravity or if it is merely the mind that floats in ecstasy. Shamanic resurrection rituals. In shamanic traditions, particularly among the indigenous peoples of Siberia, Mongolia, and the Americas, exists a profound initiatory practice known as shamanic dismemberment, or symbolic death and rebirth. During this ritualistic vision quest, the shamanic apprentice often undergoes a terrifying mystical experience of being killed. Their body is torn apart, boiled, and then reassembled by ancestral spirits or otherworldly beings. Upon being resurrected, they are believed to have acquired new supernatural powers, the ability to heal, to see the future, or to journey into the spirit world. The renowned anthropologist Mircea Eliade, in his seminal work, Shamanism, Archaic Techniques of Ecstasy, documented numerous accounts of shamans who would appear to die for days, only to return to life with a transformed spiritual consciousness. To their community, this is a genuine miracle of resurrection, proof that the shaman has been chosen and empowered by the spirits. From the perspective of Abrahamic religions, however, such a practice would be classified as deeply occult, a self-induced death and revival through interaction with foreign spirits not sanctioned by God. Modern interpretations often liken the experience to a near-death experience, NDE, or a powerful psychedelic trance, where the brain generates intense visions of dissolution and rebirth under extreme stress. Some scholars link it to the ritual use of hallucinogenic plants, which amplify the sensation of dying and being reborn. Though it can be framed in psychological or biological terms, for the culture that practices it, this ritual is a true miracle that transforms an ordinary person into a bridge between worlds. its ambiguity is clear. Is this resurrection a literal intervention by spirits, a profound psychic phenomenon, or an occult manipulation of consciousness?
Okay, now you gotta
The mediums. In the mid-19th century, a massive wave of spiritualism swept across America and Europe. This movement was founded on the belief that the spirits of the dead could communicate with the living, using a specially gifted person known as a medium as an intermediary. Thousands flocked to seances where mediums would conjure astonishing phenomena. Tables would levitate, chairs would slide across the room, mysterious knocking sounds would answer questions from the walls, a practice known as spirit rapping,
our voices are close.
and objects called apports
It's close to
would materialize out of thin air. Figures like the Fox sisters in upstate New York became international celebrities, claiming to converse with spirits through a code of knocks, and their followers viewed these events as genuine miracles. For them, it was proof of life after death. Mainstream churches, however, vehemently opposed the movement, denouncing it as a dangerous occult practice, necromancy, that opened a doorway for demonic deception. The intellectual community was split. Some scientists, like Sir William Crookes, conducted serious experiments to validate the phenomena, while skeptics and magicians like Harry Houdini later devoted themselves to exposing the widespread fraud, revealing the clever tricks, hidden mechanisms, and psychological manipulation used by many mediums. Psychologically, spiritualism met a deep emotional need in a society reeling from the massive loss of life during the American Civil War and frequent epidemics. People desperately craved one last connection with their departed loved ones. This is why, despite countless scandals, belief in the miracle of the mediums persisted, laying the groundwork for modern paranormal investigation. The phenomenon perfectly illustrates the ambiguity of an occult miracle. Was it evidence of divine communication, a harnessing of occult forces, or simply the artful deception of grieving souls?
At Granger, we're for the ones who pay attention to every little detail. The ones who fuss, tinker, and sweat the small stuff. Because you know the tiniest thing can make the biggest difference when it comes to keeping business moving. We get it. We're the same way, offering access to product experts to help you quickly and easily find what you need. So whatever your industry, you know you're always getting professional-grade products. Call, click Granger.com, or just stop by.
Within the Fermi paradox lurks many questions, which leads to many possible solutions. I know of well over 100 of them, some viable, some probably not the case. But one such solution is the famous rare Earth hypothesis that postulates that Earth is simply a rare type of planet for any number of reasons, and that the situation here may be sufficiently different from most terrestrial worlds that the conditions for life aren't actually that common. And for that life to reach a state of technological intelligence may indeed be incredibly rare. This may be one of the more viable solutions, because there is at least some data to back it up. After all, Earth has a moon, whereas none of the other terrestrial worlds in the solar system have large moons. The presence of the moon, however, is linked with life. It creates tides and moderates Earth's spin to such a degree that this planet would not be as stable in climate as it is without the moon. And that's saying a lot, since this planet isn't all that stable long term. It's very nearly frozen over in the past, even with the moon. At the same time, however, it has to be said that the Earth was not always the lone terrestrial planet with surface water in the star system. Mars also had it, and Venus probably did as well, and that would seem to suggest that water worlds like Earth are not rare. But there is another aspect here. The other terrestrial worlds also seem to lack plate tectonics, and that may be far more of a factor in supporting life long enough for the rise of intelligence than we might have previously thought. In a new study presented in Helsinki by Manuel Scherf and Helmut Lammer of the Austrian Academy of Sciences earlier this month, they detail that the balance of plate tectonics and carbon dioxide and oxygen may limit how long a planet can remain habitable. And if it's not enough time, complex life may never have a chance to develop. Simple life may still be common, but the planets it might exist on don't remain habitable as long as the Earth has. And that is the point of rarity. The first thing that's needed in this framework is the right amount of carbon dioxide. You need enough to sustain photosynthesis when it arises, and you also need it to trap heat and prevent atmospheric escape. But you also cannot have too much of it, because it can trap too much heat, and you end up with a runaway greenhouse effect, essentially
No,
Venus.
it's not out of water.
Also, too much CO2 can be toxic, so there is a right amount that Earth has. Plate tectonics directly regulates Earth's CO2 levels through the carbon-silicate cycle. But there's a further problem. The cycle is a double-edged sword, and it will be one of the things that eventually kills Earth. Eventually, plate tectonics will trap and subduct enough carbon dioxide to cause photosynthesis to shut down. This is something that will happen within the next billion years, and in fact, could start becoming a problem in as little as 200 million years. But the point is, we made it. But had that process unfolded faster than our evolution worked, this world would have never saw a technological civilization. It was very situational and time dependent, and it took 4.5 billion years to get to this point. But that may equally have never happened if evolution had taken longer to yield intelligence.
It's crazy expensive.
Another point raised by this group was that you also need a nitrogen-oxygen dominant atmosphere. This has been raised before within astrobiology, that while you do not need oxygen for life itself, you do need it for advanced intelligence. There are a few other elements reactive in the way that oxygen is, and that is the brain's main energy source. No complex brain, no technology and intelligence. But again, there is a balance here. If you drop oxygen levels below about 18% on a planet like Earth, fire shuts down. It's the same problem aquatic life faces living in an ocean. Without fire, you can't smelt metal, which means you do not have the means to create technology and advanced tools, even if you are intelligent. Earth's oxygen level is 21%, but if you go much above that, you run into the opposite problem. Too much oxygen means rampant fire, which if bad enough, can reset a civilization. And we've seen this with Earth. Earth originally had little oxygen. Life still arose in that environment, but it was simple. Only through the advent of photosynthesis did the great oxygenation event occur. Oddly, this saw the death of the original life that arose here on the surface, as oxygen was poisonous to them.
Unhand me!
Do you eat like a million orange slices to get energy for the game?
I did when I was growing up, especially when we were playing soccer. We always had orange slices, but my go-to, honestly, is applesauce. That's what I like at halftime.
Yeah.
You know, it's just easy, so applesauce is my pick.
But they still live in oxygen-poor environments, often deep below the surface of the Earth. But Earth's oxygen levels after that rose. But
remember those commercials we were talking about earlier?
During the Cambrian period, for example, the oceans
that they just go on and on and on until it forces you to.
But the oxygen level of the atmosphere was only about 5 to 10%.
Hello?
There was a time when there was no fire on this world. It only came with sufficient oxygen.
One of those commercials we were just talking about earlier. Like that just seemed to be purposely annoying to see how long you'll. I just got one, dude. It made no sense. It caught my attention because it made no sense.
As an aside, if you were to travel back in time, you actually would be able to breathe that, at least for a while.
Yeah.
Eventually, you might see some effects of oxygen toxicity, but you could stand there.
No, that one just turned into music.
Higher altitudes.
No, those are those ones that are almost like they're measuring how long it can be annoying, like just kind of jazzy, or can we get away with it? How long will he let this run in the background?
Means fire.
Before he's had enough, and he comes back and picks up the phone. No,
I wonder
saw
if
apocalyptic
it's
wildfires, both because of the increase of vegetation and oxygen,
Yeah,
but
no,
also
that's
general
where they, I
lack
think
of
that's where they
efficient
get their most money
decomposers
with.
to break
You are
down
the
dead
product.
plant
So yeah,
material.
they take that
This
information and
essentially
it's
led
not just
to a
them,
fire
but they,
world
yeah.
that human
But
civilization,
just
had it
from
evolved
working in the
then, would have had
casino,
major problems with.
sound
Think orders
is a
of
major
magnitude
component of those
worse than the
machines.
wildfires we deal
Mm-hmm.
with
You
now.
know, it's the scroll and the
Interestingly, the
reports and
team
stuff
ran
like
a
that, but
group of
sound
different
is very
models,
important.
4 biospheres
Big
with
part of it.
alternate
Yes.
oxygen and
It's
carbon
a big
dioxide
part.
levels,
Yep.
along with the
And
lifespans
yeah,
of those
I'm pretty
biospheres.
sure annoying
They
sound
also assumed that
machines don't get
advanced
played as
technological
much
civilizations could
as
only
ones that are
arise
figured out
only
how to
after a sufficient amount of time and evolution,
affect people.
and use that to come up with an educated guess
Sorry.
on how close the
Frustrating.
nearest civilization is
You're
to
on
us.
top.
I was just
The number they came up with in their framework was 33,000 light years away.
Nice how that
That would
turned
mean that there
out.
are indeed, or were, multiple
Started out, you
civilizations in the
weren't
Milky
listening
Way,
to me, and then
but they
it ended
tended to
that
be
I
very
wasn't.
distant
Wow.
from each other.
Okay.
Indeed,
I
it's
don't know
not
what just
likely we
happened
could
there,
detect a
but
civilization
I'm
with most
impressed.
technosignatures that we've thought of to look for
Good
at
God.
that distance. Radio, for example, would be untenable due to the amount of energy
It's alright, it's on
needed to
tape, bro.
produce a signal that would be
It's on tape.
detectable at that
I got the
distance,
proof.
even with a truly giant radio telescope. But they also determined that such a civilization would need to survive for at least 280,000 years to have any
Yeah,
kind
that's one of the
of
reasons they
reasonable
don't do a
chance
lot
of
of
existing at the
realistic
same time we
video
do.
games, I think.
And of course, there
Or
is
like
no
modern
guarantee
day
whatsoever
settings.
we will last another 280,000 years
What?
in order to be someone else's
I was
alien
just talking out
civilization
loud,
and
dude.
existing with them. So the solution to the paradox here
It's
is simply
because,
that
like,
all aliens are too
you're like,
far
oh,
away
that's
for us to
nice.
see
I'd
them.
like to live in a place like
But there may
that.
actually be a
Oh,
far
man,
greater
I
problem
wish I
here
could
that
have
may
something like
shut down
that.
the Fermi paradox entirely if it holds. And the problem may actually be methodological
Over.
in how we look for exoplanets.
Over.
This involves the Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite, or TESS, and how its data was being interpreted. The telescope works much like the Kepler spacecraft did. It looks for dips in light as planets pass in front of their
T-Bone,
parent star
pump your brakes,
transits.
Take a
The team at the
chill
University
pill
of California,
and just lay back and
Irvine,
let the red
found
mist
that
fall,
the presence
brother.
of a
Hey,
neighboring
Holmes, open your
star
eyes,
could be
dog.
throwing
Can't you see we're
the
getting
test
messy
data
with here,
off
huh? Hey, partner,
regarding
T-Bone,
exoplanets,
look, it's
in
Carl.
that it may make
Now,
an
he's a real
exoplanet
hero
appear
out
to
there.
be blocking less light
See?
than it actually
He's
is.
still good.
This would give
What,
the
are you
illusion
fucking
that an
stupid?
exoplanet
Someone's
is
on-
smaller than it actually
Gotta make
is.
this quick.
When
Mike
looking
doesn't
at
got much
past
time on his
exoplanet
battery left.
discoveries, the team found literally hundreds of
He says
exoplanet
in there
detections
seagulls.
that may
Mike can
have
hear gulls.
incorrectly calculated the size
that
of the
could be
planets.
anywhere in this town.
This is a
He
problem
can hear
because it
heavy
means that
machinery.
we actually have
Seagulls,
found
heavy
far
machinery?
fewer
What is that, a
Earth-like
building site
planets
or
than we
landfill
thought
or
we
something?
did.
There's a
This
building
is a
site in
problem
Jordan.
because we really do not have that many candidates for other Earth-sized worlds in the first place. Now that may be reduced to very few. In fact, out of all of the exoplanets TESS has detected, only 3 were similar to Earth in composition.
Hey, just hang in there, Mike.
But this
Help
new
is on the
finding
way.
would mean that all of them are actually larger than Earth, basically super-Earths. And there has been some talk about any terrestrial planet that's larger than 2 Earth masses is unlikely to be habitable. And given that the closest we have to Earth in the solar system are Venus and Mars, you can see how it can get complicated because Venus went runaway greenhouse before it could have developed an advanced civilization, and Mars dried out and lost its atmosphere before it could have developed an advanced civilization if you go by the metric of how long it took us to get to civilization. So those planets simply did not live long enough. And if Earth-sized planets in the habitable zones of stars are rare to begin with, then you have solved the Fermi paradox, because that would mean the nearest coexisting civilization would be even further away than 33,000 light years. We would not be alone. We just should not expect to see anyone else.
He says it's
But none
busy
of
like
this has
20
any
people or
bearing on
something.
microbial life and
They must be
biospheres.
down at the dock.
Those the
Get to the
universe
docks
may
and
yet
Easter
still
Basin.
teem with. Still, though, this may also mean that terrestrial exoplanets tend to be Haitian worlds, large ocean planets, more often than they are Earths.
Hey, we'll be there in a minute, Mike.
Ocean planets, once again, are fine for life, but not great for civilizations because of the fire problem. And it may also be that Haitian worlds are not good places for life to arise, as evidence is pointing towards life arising on land, rather than at hydrothermal vents in the ocean. And recent work has also shown, through modeling, that Haitian worlds may be really transient and lose their water rapidly, making stable ones long-term rare. Interestingly, this also goes both ways. Detections of planets that were deemed unlikely to have life because they were too small may, in light of this finding, end up being the size of Earth. So it's possible we might replace one set of Earth-like planet detections with another. But then comes that other question. What if they do not have plate tectonics on the moon? The fun thing here is that all of these ideas would immediately go out the window if SETI ever picked up a radio signal that can be proven to be of alien origin. One detection ends the entire debate, and indeed, the Fermi paradox. Thanks for listening. I am futurist and science fiction author John Michael Gautier, currently eyeing Earth suspiciously by looking down. We can already say that this planet has unique attributes. For example, if the universe is finite, then this is the only world to have ever produced a David Bowie song, among many other things. If the planet itself is rare, music in the universe must be exceedingly rare, and there is no cantina band in a hive of villainy on a desert planet, or a greatest hits album of the Dirges, of Glorcon the Mellifluous. Well, at least we sent them some Chuck Berry, and be sure to check my books at your favorite online book retailer and subscribe to my channels for regular in-depth explorations into the interesting, weird, and unknown aspects of this amazing universe in which we live.
Hey man, come on, hurry up. Apúrate. About time.
Demonstrate the extent to which the Roman Republic had deteriorated into corruption and greed, he placed a stinging quote in the mouth of Jugurtha, one of Rome's most famous enemies. Commenting on the ease with which the Numidian prince had bribed leading senators to take no action despite his continued flouting of agreements with the Republic, Sallust and Jugurtha mocked the venality of the Roman elite and their willingness to sell out the interests of the state for a few gold coins in their pocket. It is said that he often looked back at Rome in silence and finally said, "A city for sale and doomed to speedy destruction if it finds a purchaser." A contemporary of Caesar, Pompey, Cicero, and Cato, Sallust's works focus on how the riches and opportunities for exploitation of Rome's new intercontinental territories increased decadence at home and led to the decline of its republican institutions. By placing this particularly devastating critique in the mouth of a foreigner, an avowed enemy of Rome no less, Sallust was hoping to highlight just how far Rome had fallen from its earlier ideals and neglected a common purpose in the individualistic quest of its elites to accumulate ever more wealth. Sallust was presenting this as a low point, the nadir of Roman civic institutions, and a sign that with the breakdown of civic purpose, civil war was on the horizon. But though Sallust may have wondered how things could possibly get much worse, he would live to see the Republic shattered entirely. And we who study history know that this was just the start. For in 193, 2 centuries after Sallust's death, another act of wanton corruption would again lay bare the real dynamics of power in the transformed Roman state. The position of emperor was about to be auctioned to the highest bidder. Merit had no place here. No appeals were made to the supposed sovereignty of the Roman people. The gods were not consulted. Even a distinguished lineage was not considered. Coin now indisputably ruled in Rome. Gone were the days of the Republic, when any citizen, no matter how insignificant, could cast a vote on the magistrates who would govern. Rome had been fundamentally transformed by Augustus, and though his new order honored Republican forms and language, the true power was the princeps, and his authority came not from the consent of the governed, but directly from the army, with the key constituency being the elite Praetorian regiments who were stationed in Rome, ostensibly to protect the emperor and his family, but in reality they posed a much greater threat to his safety than any other stakeholder within the Roman state. The Praetorians could be loyal, but that loyalty came at a price. With the previous Emperor Pertinax now slain at the hands of the Praetorians themselves for reneging on lucrative promises of payment, the ambitious senator Didianus Julianus was about to find out exactly how much the throne cost. Then ensued a most disgraceful business, and one unworthy of Rome, for just as if it had been in some market or auction room, both the city and its entire empire were auctioned off. The sellers were the ones who had slain the emperor, and the would-be buyers were Sulpicianus and Julianus, who vied to outbid each other, one from the inside, the other from the outside. They gradually raised their bids up to 20,000 sesterces per soldier. Some of the soldiers would carry word to Julianus. Sulpicianus offers so much. How much more do you make it? And to Sulpicianus in turn. Julianus promises so much. How much do you raise him? Sulpicianus would have won the day, being inside and being prefect of the city, and also the first to name the figure 20,000. Had not Julianus raised his bid no longer by a small amount, but by 5,000 at one time, both shouting it in a loud voice and also indicating the amount with his fingers. So the soldiers, captivated by this excessive bid, and at the same time fearing that Sulpicianus might avenge Pertinax, an idea that Julianus put into their heads, received Julianus inside and declared him emperor. Rome had at last found a buyer, and he was doomed to speedy destruction. But Julianus was not the only one in danger. His farcical coronation was little more than an invitation to rebellion across the empire. For the first time in over a century, Rome was plunged into civil war. If you're enjoying this video, please do us a favor by liking, commenting, and subscribing. We're a small channel, and this is the only way to get the almighty YouTube algorithm to notice us. Furthermore, you can help Tribunate become more sustainable by becoming a member for as little as 99 cents a month. Thank you for all of your support. It should come as little surprise that Julianus's reign was short-lived. Though he had won the backing of the Praetorians with his bribe, he also demonstrated to every general in the empire just how easy it was to assume the throne. For over 120 years, Rome had enjoyed peace and prosperity, an era that is synonymous with the height of the supposed Pax Romana, and that actually saw the majority of emperors, dating back to Vespasian, dying of natural causes in their own beds. The successful emperors had passed the throne to their sons, either biological or adopted, creating a chain of legitimacy and discouraging commanders on the frontier from pressing their luck and making a play for the throne. But now, with Julianus circumventing all stakeholders save the Praetorians, every ambitious commander smelled blood in the water. An emperor reigned, but he lacked legitimacy, and there was a vacuum at the heart of the Roman state, unlike any since Nero died without heir in 68. Generals now hoped to emulate the success of Vespasian, who, though born into relatively humble circumstances, had emerged as the ultimate winner of the chaotic civil war of 69 to 70, known as the Year of the Four Emperors. Vespasian's triumph had shattered the illusion that the Senate and people played a role in the selection of the princeps, and revealed, in Tacitus's words, the secret of empire. Welcome as the death of Nero had been in the first burst of joy, Yet it had not only aroused various emotions in Rome, among the senators, the people, or the soldiery of the capital, it had also excited all the legions and their generals. For now had been divulged that secret of the empire, that emperors could be made elsewhere than at Rome. By nakedly purchasing the throne, Julianus had again removed the veiling effect of Rome's ideological superstructure, composed of tradition, patronage, piety, and honor, that cloaked the imperial position and inspired loyalty. In doing so, the secret of empire was once more laid bare, and he invited challengers,
did you just step
leading
outside,
to yet
maybe?
another civil war between multiple claimants. From this point forward, armed conflict over the position of emperor was to become depressingly common, leading to a cycle of disorder and illegitimacy that was to plague the empire on and off until it eventually contributed to the crisis of the 3rd century, and a systematic reorganization of the Roman state by Diocletian that was so comprehensive that it is not an overstatement to put it on par with the evolution from republic to empire under Augustus. At the core of this disastrous cycle was the demystification of the imperial position, and the continued inability to legally formalize the succession in such a way that would clearly delineate who was and who wasn't eligible for the throne. This problem persisted because it was a fundamental aspect of the imperial position itself. Augustus had marshaled in a new order centered around his person, but he had been careful to never assume overtly monarchical honors, as Roman political culture held a deeply ingrained opposition to monarchy, dating back to the legendary oath of Brutus after the overthrow of the Tarquins. Thus, despite him accruing all of the powers of a monarch, his position was never codified, and thus the designation of a formal heir was impossible. Though outwardly deferential to the Senate, and presenting himself as nothing more than the first citizen, none would dispute that Augustus sat at an unrivaled and unprecedented position atop Roman politics. But because he could make no monarchical claims, his extraordinary authority was wrapped in the unspoken bonds of patronage, religious devotion, and civic obligation. If these were not enough to compel obedience, Augustus ensured that the vast majority of the legions, including the elite praetorians, were personally loyal to him. So, despite the cloak of tradition he used to mask power, it was always understood that the unique position rested entirely
Oh yeah, the
on
other
military.
thing I learned is that the 5th graders, they enjoy being around the teacher's daughter.
Do they? Is it
Yeah,
a thing?
it's a thing. Yeah. I put it, yeah, put it.
Oh no, where were we at? We
found a buyer, and he was doomed to speedy
right around
destruction.
there. Yep.
But Julianus was not the only one in danger. His farcical coronation was little more than an invitation to rebellion across the empire. For the first time in over a century, Rome
They're trying
was
to curry
plunged
favor,
into
whatever.
civil war.
Yeah, whatever. That's an old.
If you're enjoying this video,
That's an
please
ancient
do us a
Chinese
favor
trick.
by liking, commenting,
You know what I'm
and
saying, though?
subscribing.
Yeah.
It's cute.
We're a small
It's
channel,
totally
and
cute.
this is
And
the
it's
only
for
way to
girls,
get the
no
almighty
doubt,
YouTube
yeah.
algorithm to notice us.
That makes sense. It would be the
Furthermore,
girls.
you can help
They're the
Tribunit
smart
become more
Yeah,
sustainable by
basically.
becoming a
Yeah.
member for as little as 99 cents a month.
Oh, I see.
Thank you for all of your support.
Because yeah, it is cute.
It should come as little surprise that Julianus's reign was
Uh,
short-lived.
no, they're
Though
smart.
he had
They're
won
smart.
the backing of the Praetorians with his bribe, he also demonstrated to every general in the empire just how easy
Yeah.
it was
No,
to
'cause it
assume
sticks
the
in the back of
throne.
your head.
For over 120
Mhm.
years, Rome had enjoyed peace and prosperity,
That's
an
that
era
mafia
that
shit.
is synonymous with the height of the supposed
That small
Pax
town shit.
Romana,
They're
and
smart.
that actually saw the majority
No,
of
and the one of
emperors,
them that-
dating back
Hey, I
to
saw your kid
Vespasian,
and
dying of natural causes in
looked
their
like
own
they were having a little
beds.
trouble.
The successful
one
emperors
around
had
the
passed
me
the
and Sydney
throne
were
to their
friends.
sons, either biological or
We're like
adopted,
friends.
We're like
creating a
And then,
friends.
chain
like,
of
no, and
legitimacy
she's
and
cute. She's a
discouraging
cute little. She
commanders
like
on the
always has a
frontier
smile on her
from
face.
pressing their
But
luck and
then
making
she
a
was
play
like,
for the
no, and
throne.
then like
But
she
now,
always
with
asked her
Julianus
questions
circumventing
about
all
Sydney and
stakeholders
stuff like
save
that.
the
So no, it's
Praetorians,
cute.
every ambitious
Mhm.
commander smelled
And
blood
then the
in the
one little
water.
girl that passed her
An
note, like,
emperor
you want to start
reigned,
this with. She's
but
like, make
he
sure Sydney
lacked
gets that note
legitimacy,
that's behind.
and there
I
was
was
a
like, I
vacuum
will.
at the
I got it
heart
in my
of the Roman
pocket.
state,
Come on.
Let's make
unlike
sure I
any
give it to her.
since Nero died without heir in 68.
Come on.
Generals now hoped to emulate the success of Vespasian, who, though born into relatively humble circumstances, had emerged as the ultimate winner of the chaotic civil war of 69 to 70, known as the Year of the Four Emperors. Vespasian's triumph had shattered the illusion that the Senate and people played a role in the selection of the princeps, and revealed, in Tacitus's words, the secret of empire. Welcome as the death of Nero had been in the first burst of joy, yet it had not only aroused various emotions in Rome, among the senators, the people, or the soldiery of the capital, it had also excited all the legions and their generals. For now had been divulged that secret of the empire, that emperors could be made elsewhere than at Rome. By nakedly purchasing the throne, Julianus had again removed the veiling effect of Rome's ideological superstructure, composed of tradition, patronage, piety, and honor, that cloaked the imperial position and inspired loyalty. In doing so, the secret of empire was once more laid bare, and he invited challengers, leading to yet another civil war between multiple claimants. From this point forward, armed conflict over the position of emperor was to become depressingly common, leading to a cycle of disorder and illegitimacy that was to plague the empire on and off until it eventually contributed to the crisis of the 3rd century, and a systematic reorganization of the Roman state by Diocletian that was so comprehensive that it is not an overstatement to put it on par with the evolution from republic to empire under Augustus. At the core of this disastrous cycle was the demystification of the imperial position, and the continued inability to legally formalize the succession in such a way that would clearly delineate who was and who wasn't eligible for the throne. This problem persisted because it was a fundamental aspect of the imperial position itself. Augustus had marshaled in a new order, centered around his person, but he had been careful to never assume overtly monarchical honors, as Roman political culture held a deeply ingrained opposition to monarchy, dating back to the legendary oath of Brutus after the overthrow of the Tarquins. Thus, despite him accruing all of the powers of a monarch, his position was never codified, and thus the designation of a formal heir was impossible. Though outwardly deferential to the Senate, and presenting himself as nothing more than the first citizen, none would dispute that Augustus sat at an unrivaled and unprecedented position atop Roman politics. But, because he could make no monarchical claims, his extraordinary authority was wrapped in the unspoken bonds of patronage, religious devotion, and civic obligation. If these were not enough to compel obedience, Augustus ensured that the vast majority of the legions, including the elite Praetorians, were personally loyal to him. So, despite the cloak of tradition he used to mask power, it was always understood that the unique position rested entirely on military dominance. While in theory the collection of roles and responsibilities that combined to form this position were all ratified by the Senate, already by the reign of Tiberius it was becoming clear that the military was the only constituency which mattered. Hence the conflation of the battlefield acclamation imperator with the office of the princeps to such a degree that these men are known today as emperors.
with
Fine.
the
Went to
military
throw her
and
outside,
not
and
the
I was
Senate
like,
or
Jesus,
people
dude. I'm
as the
like,
most influential factor
oh,
in
and there was
determining
another stray
legitimacy.
cat out there
An
eating
emperor
yesterday.
had
I
to
was like,
demonstrate
my neighbor
sustained
literally
martial
was feeding the
success
flies
and keep the
and the
troops happy by
raccoons
sating
and
them
maybe
with
even
plunder or
coyotes and all the
gifts from the Roman
strays
treasury.
just because
Were
she's
he
got this
unable to
weird
provide
thing
both, then the threat
that
always
because I don't
existed of
feed
a
them
competent
her
regional commander
schedule
usurping the position.
or what she
As
thinks.
financial
Anyways, look
troubles
at him.
made it difficult for emperors to
So,
continue paying
They
the
determined
ever-increasing salaries and donatives soldiers
so,
had become
and it's
accustomed
not
to,
good for
and
him,
foreign
dude.
incursions
So, but
necessitated
yeah,
that
they're just
commanders
gonna.
on
Miss
multiple
Moon would
fronts
look
be
better if she
equipped
was
with
about
significant
Yeah,
military
3 pounds
resources.
lighter.
It is easy to understand how Rome fell into a period of prolonged civil conflict during the latter half of the 3rd century, where each successful general saw
Josh, you are up first. The auction item that I got was calamari. So I made fried calamari, kind of like buffet meat, with frontier and grilled.
Partner.
Jizzy, what's going on?
Well, my business associates, they need a little assistance. And I thought of you, friend. Meet T-Bone at the gas station next to the docks in the Easter Basin. He's waiting for you in a 4-door sedan. Excuse me, partner. I got a call coming in. Arrivederci.
Yeah, whatever you say. Bye.
My pimp is the nicest man I know.
That's very kind.
Oh!
Damn it, I needed the money.
Don't stop. Hey, watch it!
Ah, you're beautiful.
Say where to see the mom. Say where to see the mom.
Man, where the hell everybody anyway?
Roll the sleeves up, up.
Can you say roll the sleeves up, please?
Stop.
Yeah. Can you say roll the sleeves up, please?
Say where to see the key.
Oh,
Hey,
that was
you a
pretty good.
peachy hooter or what? What the hell? You think you can mess with me? I will blow your head off and rape and kill your family, you snake! You think you can fucking bullshit me and fuck me over? I know your fucking game, that's it. I don't know what you're talking about, man. Ah, my throat! Who you working for? Nobody! Turn around and look at me.
Fiery, like flour and cayenne.
Man, I'm just trying to make some money. Keep my mouth shut, I swear, man. I almost had you, man. I almost fucking had you. Watch out. You gotta be careful in this business, man. You know that.
Are you boys done playing around?
Yeah, we're straight, Vato.
Oh, good. That's great. Now, we gotta go meet this shipment. We're late as it is. Let's go.
You heard what Hefe said. I am wicked, babe. Hey, man, you got shot. But you're great, baby.
get out and grab a bike. The shipment has to get to the factory. You make sure it does, we'll make it worth your while. We're watching you, kid.
See more than that said, we're watching.
Country music diva, Mary Beth May.
What you gonna do now?
Easy there.
That's cool.
And the
Vision mailed.
Partner.
Jizzy, what's going on?
Well, my business associates, they need a little assistance. And I thought of you,
I studied in Carthage
friend.
City.
Meet T-Bone at the gas station next to the docks in the Easter Basin.
That's Charlie Murphy.
He's waiting for you in a
I'm pretty
four-door
sure that's
sedan.
Charlie Murphy.
Give me that fucking bike.
Dude.
Anything about the aliens.
Try reading between the lines.
Get the squirrel running in the rig, huh? Get out and grab a...
Hey! Stop harassing me, Bobo. Ever read Dr. Akbar's book on black? Welcome to America.
Tighten it up for me.
Huh? What? What do you want me to do with you?
Tighten it up.
Not around your neck. Because that could choke you. You can't tighten around.
Hold me up.
It will. You need to brush your teeth again, girl. You're drinking my soda. Girl, you need water.
Oh, Mom. I didn't know the soda. Mom.
What?
I have a book for you.
Hey, you need to go pee-pee.
Ooh, now.
Is this for me?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's open.
This is it.
Oh, it's that way. Sorry. I didn't know. I love it. Okay.
You got to... Oh.
Come on, come on, come on. Come on! Sorry. Oh. Come on. Come on.
I think you broke my wrist.
Wrong weapon. Jump, jump, jump. What do we got? What do we got here? What do we got? What do we got? Kill him. Come on. Come on. We're on fire. We're on fire. Run, run, run.
You want to get shot up, huh?
Things are bad enough, and now I'm getting held up, too.
You want to hear my plan to rob you?
Come on, come on, come on, come on. I guess I'll run with it.
My plastic bubble. Don't make this worse for yourself. Oh, yeah. Okay, we made it, but the cops gonna be all over the spot real soon. Get the van out of sight. I'm gonna get out of here.
An incompetent and unpopular regime that could easily be toppled. But in moving his troops off the front to challenge the current emperor, he only invited further incursions from the outside, contributing to further destabilization. Though he was working within his own constraints and a unique ideological environment, the inability of Augustus to formally codify his position was a ticking time bomb that must be taken into account when we appraise his legacy, as well as that of every other emperor who declined to tackle this thorny issue and left it to his successors to navigate. That the crisis of the 3rd century unfolded then is not a surprise. What is unusual is that it took so long, and that Rome enjoyed its golden Pax Romana at all, in spite of the flimsy edifice upon which its dominion rested. That the legions were active during this era of supposed peace and prosperity is beyond dispute, and it is my contention that it was the continual war and conquest outside the limits of the empire during this period of peace that allowed for Rome to continue neglecting its core problems. Plunder of outsiders and exploitation of the provinces provided just enough money to keep everyone satisfied, and for the emperors to indulge their prodigious appetites for luxury while also keeping the army well paid. Rome was theoretically at peace during the Pax Romana, yet it was still waging war on a massive scale. Roman affluence had been purchased through provincial suffering and misery. The Augustan poet and propagandist Virgil declared that Jupiter had offered the Romans an empire without limit, yet even Rome could not expand forever. There were real logistical and even communication barriers to continued growth, and the further it pushed, the more the tribes, nations, and kingdoms
Don't stop.
That surrounded Rome pushed back. Already under Hadrian, there was a recognition that Rome's borders were becoming indefensible, with a crucial factor in this consideration being an unwillingness to entrust frontier commanders with the military resources they might need to hold territories won by Trajan, as these legions could just as soon be marching on Rome as they could on Ctesiphon. This danger necessitated that Rome do the unthinkable: give up territory and consolidate along defensible borders. This new policy and lull in aggression allowed Rome's foes to rebuild, and cracks in the facade were already appearing even under Marcus Aurelius, an emperor who is much admired today, but whose accomplishments fail to measure up to his popular reputation. However, fortunately for the Romans, his reign wasn't as bad as his philosophy, and his campaigns on the Danube staved off crisis for a generation. But, often overlooked by those who consider Aurelius's military exploits, is the fact that the emperor need be present at all. Marcus Aurelius was not a soldier. He was much more at home writing Stoic drivel than at the head of a legion. But, like his immediate predecessors, he knew that any army capable of waging war successfully was too large to be left in any hands but his own. So, like Hadrian, Aurelius would spend over half his reign outside Italy. Contrast the necessity of this direct supervision in the 2nd century with Augustus's tenure as princeps, where he was able to delegate command and thus oversee political life in Rome. It may not have been recognizable at the time, but this drift away from Rome and the Senate as the political center of the empire in favor of wherever the largest army was congregated represented a transformation in the power dynamics of the Roman state. It also explains why the Eternal City itself became less and less important over time. But though these forces were coming to a head, Rome was still strong enough, stable enough, and rich enough that it remained prosperous and secure even during the lackluster reign of Aurelius's son and chosen successor, Commodus. Though Rome itself was safe, Commodus was not, and his erratic behavior resulted in his assassination and the elevation of Pertinax in 193. Commodus was the first emperor to die violently in nearly 100 years, but Pertinax would follow in his footsteps only a few months later. While generals on the frontier had been content with the elevation of the respected Pertinax, they bore no such loyalty for his successor Julianus, especially once the terms of his selection came to light. Julianus's bribes had bought the Praetorian Guard, but not all of the legions. Roman warlords in Britain, Pannonia, and the East all rose to claim the throne for themselves. If Julianus could buy the throne, they saw no reason why they couldn't as well. Besides, bribes are much easier to pay when you are using public money instead of your own. The ensuing civil war lasted for 4 years, and resulted in the ultimate victory of Septimius Severus, whose battle-hardened Danube legions made it possible for him to found the Severan dynasty. He was a competent ruler who positioned his sons for success as his heirs, while also showing the foresight to disband the untrustworthy Praetorian Guard. But, though rid of the treacherous Praetorians, nothing about the material forces that drove the army to periodic revolt or encouraged it to extort the state for ever higher wages was fundamentally addressed. Severus had treated the symptom, not the disease. He seemed aware of this when, on his deathbed in 211, he prepared to make his sons Caracalla and Geta co-emperors, telling them, "Be harmonious, enrich the soldiers, and scorn all other men." He knew that the army alone had the power to dislodge them from the throne, and that it could only be placated through bribery. But his realpolitik advice was neglected. The brothers were soon at odds, and Caracalla had Geta slain in their own mother's arms. Soon, Caracalla would meet a similar end, assassinated in a conspiracy orchestrated by Macrinus. It would be roughly 100 years before another emperor clearly died of natural causes, like their father, Septimius Severus. The crisis was here. The doom prophesied by Jugurtha may not have arrived as quickly as he expected, but with the rise of the soldier emperors, it was now inevitable.
Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and you know, it's not a shock if I tell you can never trust the internet again, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about something that's blowing my mind. Now, remember about like 2 years ago in March of 2023 when a user on Reddit made a Stable Diffusion video of Will Smith eating spaghetti? Now, ladies and gentlemen, just a little over 2 years after that, we have now gotten to a point where entire South Park clips can be AI generated. Just listen to this.
Dude, what the hell is that? It says Waymo.
Waymo? Like some kind of fancy Uber for snobs?
Take me to Casa Bonita.
Navigating to Casa Bonita. Please fasten your seatbelt.
Dude, it's driving itself.
Whoa, buddy. What about Family Guy, ladies and gentlemen? Well, listen to this.
Oh!
This reminds me of that time I rioted on January 6th.
Ouch.
Let's show them what democracy
I
looks
didn't
like
even
in
see the
Taco
meter,
Joyce.
bro.
Fighting the democracy.
You know, man, I feel like we are kind of at a cooked point. You know, a lot of people are wondering, man, what's going to happen to people that work in Hollywood, people that work as animators, musicians, you know, all the creative types? Really, ladies and gentlemen, simply because of the fact that, again, you know, if you think that a big animation house, you think of some, like, Hollywood-like producer, isn't going to stop snorting their line of coke and look at this and think, whoa, you're telling me we can save more money and not hire other human beings and do it? Absolutely. But ladies and gentlemen, it's not just about that. It actually gets a little bit more insidious. So for anybody that doesn't understand, this is Sora 2, which is this new AI created by the fellows over at OpenAI. Now, a few days ago, I saw this kind of come out, and it blew my mind with it. So I'm going to show you a couple videos from this that absolutely have shown me how far this sort of like AI-generated shit has come about. So immediately I go to their like showcases, and this video is entirely AI generated of a figure skate. And you know, the only giveaway that I'm seeing over here kind of is, I'm not joking with you, is the actual advertisements that surround. Because obviously the text isn't entirely there. But of course you go even further and you can see that some dude is filming his homie doing a backflip on a paddleboard. And you know what, man, like, you know, for somebody like me who's been at the AI stuff from the beginning and just sort of been covering this as it's been happening, even I'm starting to get just a little bit confused at everything that's gone on. But you know, obviously you might be like, well, what have people been generating with this AI stuff, Muda? Well, I'm going to show you something that's going to make a Nintendo lawyer probably have a heart attack.
Pikachu on the grill here. It's already got a beautiful char. It smells like somebody plugged in a chicken. Let's give it a flip. I'm going to carve it into some thick steaks. Look at that. Crust on the outside, pink and juicy in the middle.
Disagree, dude. Right there. That's what you can feel.
OpenAI cooking up the Pikachu. And you know, honestly, like, you know, going from the Will Smith eating spaghetti test, oh man, we've come a long way. Now, one of my favorite types of content on the internet is just looking up body cam footage. So, you know, you can just look up body cam footage.
Dude, come on.
Tons of channels with hundreds of thousands.
Sorry, what the frickety frackety,
it's
dude?
just 30-minute like body cam footages of like cops, you know, either intervening with whatever, or like any type of person. Now, obviously, look, what if you could fake the body cam footage and start making some goofy narratives in today's wild, hypercharged world?
It's a lot of buttons. Turn off
It seems you can kind of do that, given the fact that one of the prompts that I saw was live-action body cam footage of a police officer confronting Ash Ketchum in an alley for illegal Pokemon fights and cruelty. As Ash suddenly turns and tries to flee, another officer stands nearby carrying Pikachu in a cage. You're like, whoa, what the fuck did this look like, Rita? Well, I got a 10-second clip right here.
Hands right in the Ash. You're being detained for illegal Pokemon fights in Philippines. Don't move. Hey, stop! He's running! Get back here! Down! Hands behind your back! I've got the Pikachu secure. Hands right in here.
I swear, I thought Ash was about to pull out a fucking Glock or something. That cop was about to shoot a child on digital camera. And you know, man, to be real with you, this looks pretty damn convincing. Like, if I saw this, I probably would. Obviously, I know that Pokemon is Pokemon, but I'm starting to look at it from a different angle. Imagine if you just changed the prompt so it looked less goofy, and you actually made it look like a somewhat real showcase of police brutality. I mean, just in the world we live in, imagine faking like a video like that through an AI tool, and then it just going viral for millions of people to see. What is that one saying? Like a lie just instantly gets viewed or something, and like a lie travels around the globe, and the truth is still putting on its shoelaces. That's the freakiest part about it. You know, the internet is already like the current meta on the internet has been for a while, like just rage baiting. But again, it makes me wonder. So obviously here's another examples that look just as good on Sora 2.
Sir, license and registration, please.
I forgot it at home, officer.
Step out of the vehicle.
Hey, stop! Get back here!
I mean, what do you even do at this point, man? I mean, the text makes sense. I guess if you looked at the houses, you know, maybe again you start to realize that these don't look like normal homes. But how often is somebody who's scrolling through their like short form feeds actually paying that much close attention? And of course, here's other things where I feel like Nintendo and their lawyers are gonna have a lot of fun. Because it's like realistic body cam footage of a police officer pulling over a red Ferrari driving. Pikachu only says Pikachu and moves the head in fear. It was a serious offense, so the cop is extremely angry and tries to open the door of the car before Pikachu speeds away quickly. Miami, sunny day, palms. So I guess we'll look at this footage right here. So you got a cop. That's a pretty low Ferrari. Of course, obviously the vehicle handle doesn't look good, but again, if this was not a comical video, somebody might actually sit here and kind of fall for this kind of shit. And that cop is running pretty fast. But anyways, you get what I'm saying here, okay? But of course, the more normal looking one is this. So you can see like a dog is driving on the road. And again, if you're really looking carefully at this, you might be able to spot the problem. But people can always just use post-processing. Change certain things or degrade the footage. Now look, ladies and gentlemen, you might be like, well, where can I do this? Well, you can get the Sora 2 app on your iPhone, not Android at the moment. Unfortunately, I wasn't really into it, nor did I really care so much about it. But I did find it funny when they said something about launching responsibly, concerns about doom scrolling, addiction, isolation, and RL sloptimi. You know what? I'm banning the word slop on this fucking channel, dude. I swear. I've never seen a word lose its goddamn meaning so fast. Almost poetic that the word slop just loses its meaning that quick. Are top of the mind. Here is what we're doing about it. Using tools and optionality to be in control of what they see on their feed, OpenAI's existing LLMs, we're developing a new class of recommender algorithms that can be constructed through natural language. We've also built in mechanisms to periodically poll users on their well-being and proactively give them the option to adjust their feed. Now, I think a lot of this is kind of bullshit. I really do think all they give a fuck about is you just involving yourself into Sora's OpenAI, right? Or the Sora project. Now, how do you get yourself on here? From my understanding, you actually use something called cameos. And I think Justine kind of showed it. She was like one of the shows.
Did you the microphone?
She showed that as long as you kind of do like a little face ID, like you say a few words, you do some basic things. The AI
Hi, baby.
build a profile on you, and then you can put your cameo into basically any project. Now, honestly, you know, you might be like, wow, they want to do something cutesy. Bro, they're just building more training. They're just harvesting more training data for their big-ass AI plans, okay? And I don't even think these AI plans are really about to go anywhere. Like,
No, not on your
you know, for a long time, we've been promised shit like AGI and all this crap.
There, you can have your laptop.
Oh, you're totally left.
There you go.
Where I really don't think that the return is going to be what these tech companies are doing to every industry around the world. Okay, it's just fucking insane. Now, obviously, look, it's not just Sora 2 you have to worry about. If you're thinking that OpenAI is the only group of people behind it, let me remind you that Google was pushing VO onto like the YouTube Shorts not too long ago. That it was going to be some real nice future for you guys to be consuming your content on YouTube, and it would just be mostly AI shit on the Shorts. I think it's something like what 50% of the Shorts on this site at least seem to be fucking AI. But the other thing is, Meta has like AI social media. Meta introduced something called Vibes, which is a new way to discover and create AI-generated slop content. Now, if you ever want to see a real example of this, you can fire up your phone, download the Meta AI app, and just to kind of show you guys what's going on over here, I'm going to kind of divert a little bit of attention and sort of look at this a little bit with you. So if you go to Meta AI, so using Meta AI, it's literally just TikTok, except everything is AI slop right over here. Okay, so this is space-time, and of course you go down, it's just trivia, and then it's like, ooh, look at that, you got pirate ships going through. Ooh, you've got little dogs. Oh my god. Oh, you got a dog with milkshakes. Now, of course, some of these really have you wondering how many fucking people actually use this shit. I mean, if you're looking at it, right, this is a pretty popular, like, post. It's got 5.7 thousand likes, okay? Which I guess anybody can like it. But this has 83 comments. And again, when you open up the comments to this, it almost feels like it's just AI shit as well. Lovely. Amazing.
Oh, did you?
Wow,
Thank you.
lovely. Cool. Ecstasy of the monarchs. It almost feels like even the human
Well,
beings
it's a real thing, man.
don't exactly feel also human, right? There's a very weird, like, thing here that makes you feel like the engagement is far more synthetic than it is organic. And I don't know if Meta is doing this to sort of sell it to investors down the road that, oh my god, people love using AI social media, even though it really just feels like AI loves AI social media, not so much the goddamn organic people loving the social media so much. But look, most of this shock you. AIs are designed so that you can engage with them, you can upload your likeness, they can harvest all of the user information they want, illegally, by the way, in my opinion. But I think at least ethically wrong to just be grabbing everybody's copyrighted materials to just feed into AI and just use that human expression for the world to just mindlessly. You know, one of the things that I do just enjoy on my channel is like uploading a video like this. You know, just, I feel like it's kind of like an old school YouTube mentality. Like, it's kind of just like an old personality-based thing. But I even feel like this is all going to be. At some point, you're going to have all the influencers on the site. You might even have
Sydney can change
you might have people you watch online just be replaced entirely by this area is restricted. And even though you and I might not enjoy it as much, I'm pretty sure the engagement will look super nice. Fact will be fucked up by a lot of this AI companies in the future, but that's a different story. The other thing that I find really odd about this, and the reason why I say trusting anything in the future is a bit of a argument, because again, with how good these AI generation systems have gotten, I almost wonder what's going to occur when you have law enforcement who needs to be looking at the stuff and thinking, okay, can we admit video evidence in court anymore, or do we all have to assume things can be AI generated? It's even to a point that, again, just looking at from last year alone, right? Courts actually were, you know, throwing out videos that were just enhanced by artificial intelligences. So, for instance, according to these finding of facts, the use of AI tools to enhance video, not just generate, enhance, meaning that, you know, let's say a video is like 720p and you want to get it up to like 1080p or 1440p or 4K. You can throw it into an AI upscaler that'll often take that image and add extra features to it, so that it looks like a native 4K image or whatever resolution you set it to. A lot of people kind of do this with anime, but the problem is depending on the AI like upscaling and how aggressive it is, sometimes it can add details that don't really that are not supposed to be there. And unfortunately, in cases like the law, it could sometimes add a detail that might, you know, exonerate, or it might sway a investigation a certain way. Like, point number 18 is pretty strong here, where the expert explains and demonstrates that AI processes remove information that was in the original images, and then it adds information that wasn't in the original images. The preferred AI-enhanced video removed artifacts on individual images, altered shapes, removed the opportunity to forensically analyze which frames in the video utilized reference, predictive, and bidirectional images. In short, the AI enhancement tools made proper, accepted forensic analysis of the video impossible. And that point really sticks to me because, again, going into the future, when you're going back to the body cam stuff, look, we laughed at memes. But I'm slowly starting to think that, there's going to be people that are going to go to jail or be implicated in crimes that they really had nothing to do with because the AI generation shit has gotten so fucking good. And it's if you think it's just going to plateau here, remember, Will Smith eating spaghetti was like 2 years ago. It's advanced at such a rapid, fast rate that trying to stay ahead of it is basically impossible at this point. And again, you might be like, well, what about the safeguards that these companies have put into place? Remember, it's not just one AI company that controls this technology. There's countries that are involved in this. China, for instance, is really, really into AI. And not only are they into AI, but they've basically open sourced some of the best models that you can use right now. And by open sourcing, you can download a lot of Chinese models and have them running on your local computers, laptops, cell phones to an extent. Now, this has led to a new level of horror, right? One that really freaks me the fuck out. Now, you might not have heard about the story, but last year, a Florida man got arrested after they pled guilty to multiple counts of production, possession, and distributing tens of thousands of images and videos of abuse happening to children. So what happened over here? Well, if you want to read the story, an individual known as Justin Colmo of Oldsmar actually was going out to places like Disneyland, for instance. And when he went out to places like Disneyland, he had actually started recording videos of children, right, in public. So what did he do? He had a GoPro, secretly filmed these children as they were walking around in a public area. And once he had images of these children, he could take their faces and then using their faces, throw them into stable diffusion models. And again, because these models could run locally on their system, and since a model can run locally on your system, you can actually make it uncensored. You can remove the guardrails and system prompts. So once you're completely exempt from being, running on OpenAI servers or Google servers or Microsoft servers or, X servers, you can effectively get these AIs to do anything. And I've kind of shown you this in the world of computer malware where you can use AIs to write you, computer viruses. You can use AIs to write you, phishing emails. And they're getting really good at it day by day. So unfortunately, in this case, a sick pedophile is using tons of children's images. Children who, just walking around in the park, publicly available. And he used their images for evil purposes. And he's not the only one that has done this, okay? There have been other cases.
But even
Here's another
flying to
situation of a
Idaho,
Wisconsin man just last
you're
year
a freshman
who
in
was arrested on
college.
criminal charges for production,
So-
distribution, and possession of these
So I'm sure
AI-generated
she's bummed.
images
I'm
of
sure she
minors.
wants to
So
move up,
Stephen
but like
Onderet
Scouts isn't her
allegedly
career.
used text-to-image
And then as
generative
far as
artificial
like what
intelligence models
the
like Stable Diffusion to create thousands
the
of
amount of
realistic
benefit
images
she's
of
going to
prepubescent
get for the
minors.
effort
As
she is
alleged,
going to put in,
Stephen used AI to produce
and I
thousands
get
of
that and I
illicit
understand
images
but
of
really
prepubescent
how
minors,
on
and
your
even sent
resume
some of these to a minor
Is
themselves.
the
So
resume
allegedly,
national
he
chair, and yeah,
communicated with a
that's kind of
15-year-old boy
impressive, but
and
like
described how he used
but
Stable Diffusion to
honestly,
she
convert
already
his
has a
text
long
prompts
list.
into
Yeah.
images
and
of minors.
honestly, in
And then he
her
allegedly
resume,
used Instagram's
working
direct
as a
messaging
bus
feature
aide
to
with
send the
special
boy
education students
several
is a
Gen AI
bigger
images of
fucking
minors.
Deal
I
then.
know
Obviously
that.
displaying
I'm in
things
her
that
field.
they
So
legally
that's a
shouldn't
That
be.
is
Again,
a
it's a really
bigger
disgusting
but
thing
no,
thing to be
I
than
looking
her
at. But
being a
the
national
better this
I'm
technology
kind of
whatever.
bummed.
gets,
I'm
the
not, and I
more
don't
fearful
try
I
not
do
to hold her
genuinely
back.
become of
No.
A,
All
how
I'm
does this
saying is the
affect
only
us
thing I'm
believing
saying is
anything
she
on the
cannot
internet,
drive to
right?
St.
Like
Louis,
it used to be
Missouri
that
by
gold
herself.
standard
So
was video, right?
this
Like
is
if there
all
was a
getting
video of
spun
somebody
into
doing
other
something
shit,
fucked up on
but
the
this
internet,
she
bro, you could sit
cannot
there and be
drive to
like,
St. Louis,
there's
Missouri
no
by
better evidence
herself.
of that now.
I just
Bro, with how good Sora
feel
2,
like
with how
she
good
was
some of
just
this shit has
circling
gotten,
back around. We told
man,
her
it's going to be real
Okay,
difficult
Mom,
to
she
believe
cannot
anything.
drive.
It's going to be
I
really
know.
Yeah.
hazy.
But
Obviously, we'll
that's what I
still be
mean. Like, I
laughing at
know
all the
they're giving
mini
a hard
AI
time
shit like
about not
Pikachu
coming
getting
down for this
arrested.
weekend.
But then
And
when it comes to
we
like body
told
cam or
you
arrest footage or
to
like,
get rid
footage of like a
of
fucking
this
hate crime
scripture.
that somebody generates
And
literally
you
to
walked
incite
in.
internet hatred and make
And I'm
rage
sorry
bait
you're
clicks for
having
fucking
to
money.
disappoint
Like this is the
people
kind of
now, but
technology that I shit you not. I can see somewhere in a
Dad
dark
told
corner
you
in like the
over
middle
and
of
over
fucking
again.
India, some
I
guy who
came
knows how to
back and
rage bait
told
the
you
fuck out of people
We're
on the internet.
wrapping
Okay,
up the
some
scout
guy is
stuff.
going
that
to
like
sit there
this
with
needed to
the
you should
stable diffusion
never
model with
have
Sora 2
taken
with
those
the open source
positions
version,
because
make
you
the
knew you were going
craziest
to
shit
college.
imaginable,
That's probably
upload it on the internet,
Scouts
rage bait
keeps
the
trying
fuck out
to
of the
bump
people
it up
across the
into a
ocean, and
young
make
adult
100, 200
program,
bucks
and I think
in
that's why
extra
it
ad
never
revenue.
really
Okay, I
takes
really
off.
feel
Because,
like
dude,
that
but
is
I go to
probably getting
college.
off
Sorry.
lightly.
we're
What
done.
gets scary is
We're
people
done.
who get arrested,
We did it for over a
and then
decade.
they're fighting AI
Like, we're
generated
done.
evidence
And then
against them.
she can come
Dude, it
back
could be a point
later,
where,
dude. And anyways, I
AI
don't
generated
agree.
like illegal
Even my
material
dad
could be
said when I was
used
just like,
against
Dad,
people, and it is
it's
being
not
used
like we're
against
not
people.
proud
And
of
in
her, but
order
she's
to like
done enough.
combat
And
it,
he's
I
like,
just
oh,
don't
she's done
know
more
what
than
really
enough.
is the
That's what I
case.
mean,
And
dude.
Because
even
even
he
if you
was smart
argue and
enough to
say,
know, like,
oh, just
she got
watermark
her
it,
Eagle
well,
Scout. I
there's
was like,
ways to
yeah,
have
Dad.
AIs
And she's
generate
done
things
OA
without
stuff on
watermarks
top of
too.
that, and she's
There's a
had
million
positions
ways.
in OA.
This
So
genie is
I
out
get
of the
it. It's a
fucking bottle,
national
folks. It's
position.
pretty
It's
much done
prestigious
and
and all that.
dusted.
But
Now
she
there are a
cannot
couple
drive to
other
St.
things
Louis
that
by
AI has
herself.
me a little bit
So
worried
that's
about.
not
One
my
video that I
fault.
saw floating
It's
around
not
just
my
to end
fault.
things
I'm not
off
getting guilty.
comes
I'm
from
not.
apparently Larry
This isn't even
Ellison.
about
Now I
scouts
haven't
at this
verified
point.
this
This is that
entirely
she
myself.
planned
I
it.
don't
She
know if
did
this
not have
might
a
be AI
car,
generated,
Yeah.
but that's a
but
good
she
thing to
thought
bring
she
up
was going to
because
get herself to
I
St.
can't
Louis
even trust
somehow.
people on
So that's
video
where I was
anymore.
like, when I
Okay,
was
that's
like,
how
what
fucked
was
it is.
your
Because we're
plan for
constantly recording,
transportation of
watching and recording everything that's
the
going on.
bus? Are you
Citizens would be on
fucking
their best
kidding me?
behavior
No, I was
because
just like,
we're
you gotta be
constantly
out of your
recording and
fucking
reporting
mind, bro.
everything that's
So,
going
anyways,
on.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
The first
They
thing
were
a country needs to
enough.
do
Yeah.
is to
Oh,
unify
nothing.
all
I
of
just don't
their
want the
data
kids 25
so
years from
it
now
can
to
be
hear their mom going
consumed and
fucking,
used by the AI model.
fuck.
You have to take
Are
all of
you
your
fucking
healthcare data,
crazy?
your diagnostic data,
Gotcha.
your
No,
electronic
don't. You
health
made me
records,
say
your
it, dude.
genomic
You
data.
literally.
The
I
NHS in the
gotcha.
UK has an incredible amount of population data, but it's fragmented. It's not easily accessible by these AI
It's not
models.
To
attractive, dude.
see like
I
just some of
For
these
a
agree.
girl,
big
too.
players in the
I
space
gotcha.
talk about how
Stop.
much they need access
Roger,
Okay,
to our
yeah,
Roger.
data.
okay. And
Look,
now
if
I'm
anybody
spending
is
my
to get
time
any
in
serious money
emotional
out of this,
prison.
it's these
No,
big tech
Roger,
companies
Roger.
selling this
Stop
AI
it.
shit to
Over.
Stop
governments
it.
and other,
Stop it.
sectors
No, it's
all over the
not.
world.
Over and out.
And it
Whatever.
literally is just a way
Over
for
and
them to
out.
make
Anyways.
crazy amounts of money and also profit off of the future surveillance of us
Anyways.
anyways.
Yeah, she
But I
can't.
think in the next couple of years, it
I'm
might just
not
be,
getting.
look, it can
I'm
either be
getting
something
pissy
that's
because,
real and
like,
it all
no, this
hinges on
is
this
turning. She
AGI
did
shit.
not plan it
Like if
properly. It
AGI
has
becomes a
nothing to do with
reality,
this. It has
then
nothing to
this is
do
not
with
the dot-com bubble people or
taking a
dot-com
bus to
bubble that
St.
people
Louis.
are
Why didn't
thinking
she
of.
take a
It's
bus to
actually a
Tulsa?
real serious piece of technology, like AI that surpasses human intelligence could be a huge game changer. But if it's one of those things where these companies are
No,
just like
she did not plan
burning,
well. She didn't
the
talk to
oil
anybody. She
and
did
just
not
sort of
plan it
like,
well, and so her plans
and
fell
this is sort of
through.
the
And I
peak, this is sort of
apologize,
where
but
if they're not
she
able to reach that,
cannot
then
ride
for
a
the next
bus
few
by
years,
herself
we're
to St.
just
Louis.
spending vast
She
amounts of
can't ride a
money,
bus by
energy, and all
herself
this
to. I don't
bullshit.
know if I'd
This
let
might
an
be a bubble
18-year
that
old
really
girl ride.
bursts. And when it does
Mom,
burst, man, the
no, I'm
tech
getting mad
industry
because you
is
guys are
going
all
to
acting
fucking go
crazy.
through one of the roughest
It's 3
periods.
hours later.
Because
You're still
literally
feeling
every
guilty. And I'm
single
like, for
large tech
what,
company
dude?
all
She
over the world has put
cannot
all of their eggs into the fucking
go
AI
on a
basket.
trip
But
by
again, maybe they see
herself.
something that we don't.
She
But
needs
all this
somebody to
AI shit
drop her
right
off at
now,
the
it
airport,
starts off
to
with like
pick her
these
up at
cutesy,
the
funny
airport.
social
Who's
media
picking her
memes.
up at the
But
airport?
it's interesting to see. Obviously, most people are looking
An
at this
18-year-old
in a
girl
more
can't
realistic
travel by
manner,
her
right? And what are
fucking
the
self,
actual
dude.
dangerous implications of it? Ladies and gentlemen, this has
Now,
been
what the
Radahar. And if you
fuck
like
is
what you saw,
happening?
please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike
I
it.
don't know. I was just trying to talk to you.
No, I know, but that's why I'm getting
easy being the
upset
one everyone
because you,
counts
and
on to
it's
keep
turning
your
into we're
operation running.
taking
That's why
scouts
at
away from
Granger,
her. I'm
we're
getting,
here
what
for
the
you
fuck are you
with
talking about? We're
professional-grade
taking
industrial
scouts? No,
supplies and
we're
fast
not.
delivery. Call
Yes, I kept telling her she needs to wrap this stuff up, but I'm not taking scouts away from her. She didn't have a car, but she made plans anyways, and she didn't talk to
Granger,
anybody
you're the
about
one.
it. She
You get
didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, I don't mean to be snappy, but I'm being a little snappy because I'm not saying she can't go. I'm saying the plan she made to travel across multiple states by herself is a no-go. And we don't have the money to make it better. She doesn't have the money to make it better. She doesn't have the money to be going. The money she's going to be spending on this trip needs to be going to buying her a fucking car. Like, no, we're socioeconomic out, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm snapping because no, we shouldn't feel guilty. I love her. I wish she could go, but yeah, it wasn't. Sorry to get upset. Yeah, no, she can't travel by herself across the fucking country, dude.